Cancel your appointment and come clean the house. It's the least you can do, my daughter-in-law said. When I answered no, she stood up and screamed, in front of everyone, "You're worthless." I grabbed my purse and walked out without looking back. Days later, she lost everything. Those words came out of my daughter-in-law Sabrina's mouth as if they were the most natural thing in the world. We were in the middle of my granddaughter Sophia's birthday party, surrounded by 30 guests, purple balloons everywhere, and the sweet smell of the birthday cake I had baked myself since 5 in the morning. I had the phone pressed to my ear. On the other end, Mr. Wallace, the antiques appraiser, had just offered me $90,000 for the opal necklace I inherited from my mother. $90,000. It was my salvation. My only way to have something of my own after 12 years of feeling like a stranger in my own home, but Sabrina didn't care. She planted herself in front of me in those black patent leather heels she always wears to look taller, more powerful. Her expensive perfume hit my nose. "Margaret, are you listening to me? The kitchen is a disaster. Cancel that ridiculous call and get to cleaning. It's the least you can do after we give you a roof over your head." I felt something inside me break. Or perhaps it was set free. I lowered the phone. I looked Sabrina straight in the eyes. And for the first time in 12 years, in 4,380 days of humiliation, I said, no. The silence that followed was deafening. The guests stopped talking. Even the music seemed to quiet down. Sabrina blinked twice, as if she hadn't understood. "What did you say?" I said, "No, Sabrina. I'm on an important call." Her face transformed. Surprise turned into a fury I had never seen. She shot up from her chair so fast she knocked it over. The sound of metal on the floor made Sophia jump, and then she screamed. She screamed for everyone to hear. "You're worthless. You are a useless burden just taking up space in this house." The birthday cake I had prepared with so much love was still untouched on the table. The purple balloons swayed in the breeze. My granddaughter Sophia looked at me with tears in her eyes. And my son Matthew, my only son, remained seated, his eyes fixed on his plate, as if nothing was happening. I picked up my brown leather purse, the one Arthur gave me on our 30th anniversary. I ran my hand over the worn leather, feeling its familiar texture, its promise of better times. I looked one last time at Matthew, waiting. I don't know what I was waiting for anymore. And I left. I walked through the guests with my head held high, even though inside I felt like I was crumbling. I heard the murmurs, the pitying glances, the uncomfortable silence I left in my wake. I didn't look back. What none of them knew, what Sabrina never imagined while she screamed at me in front of everyone, was that the call she interrupted wasn't just any call. Mr. Wallace was waiting for my answer about the opal necklace, those iridescent stones that shined with all the colors of the rainbow, the same ones my mother gave me on her deathbed, telling me, "Keep these for when you really need them." That moment had arrived, but what happened next, what I discovered in the following days, was much worse than anyone could imagine. And Sabrina, with all her venom and arrogance, had no idea that that scream, that insult in front of 30 witnesses, had just sealed her fate. If you have ever been made to feel worthless in your own home, stay until the end of this story, because what's coming, nobody saw coming. And if this confession is striking a chord with you, subscribe to the channel to keep sharing stories like this, stories that need to be told. I arrived at Helen's house with dry eyes. The tears had run out on the way. She opened the door, saw my face, and didn't ask a single question. She just hugged me. But to understand how I got to that moment, to that scream that broke me in two in front of 30 people, I need to go back. I need to tell you how a 68-year-old woman, the owner of her own home, ended up feeling like an unpaid servant in the place she built with her husband. It all started 12 years ago, when Arthur died. It was a Tuesday in October, when the sky was so blue it seemed fake. Arthur was watering the rose bushes in the garden, those fuchsia flowers he loved so much, when he just stopped. The heart attack was massive. He didn't even have time to call for me. I found him there, among the flowers, the hose still in his hand. The first few months were a hell of silence. The house felt huge, empty, filled with the ghosts of conversations we would never have. Matthew came to visit me every weekend, worried, affectionate. He brought Sabrina and Sophia, who was just 6 months old then. "Mom, you can't stay alone in this big house," Matthew would say while pouring coffee. "Why don't we share the space? That way you won't be alone, and we could save on rent from our apartment." It sounded reasonable. It sounded like love. How naive I was. In the beginning, Sabrina was a different person. Considerate, even affectionate. She helped me with dinner, asked how I had slept, hugged me when she saw me looking sad. I thought I had gained not just a daughter-in-law, but a daughter. The transformation was gradual, so slow I didn't see it coming. It started with little things. A comment about my cooking. "Oh, Margaret, don't you think you used a little too much salt?" Then about how I dressed. "At your age, you should wear more discreet colors, don't you think?" Then about my friends from the quilting group. "Those women just go to gossip. You're wasting your time." When Sophia turned 1, Sabrina quit her job. "To dedicate myself to the baby," she said. But the one who ended up taking care of Sophia was me. The one who woke up at 3 in the morning with her crying. The one who prepared her baby food, changed her diapers, sang her to sleep. "Sabrina's going out with her friends because I need a break, Margaret. Being a mother is exhausting." And I stayed silent, because I loved my granddaughter, because I thought this is how families were supposed to be, supporting each other. But there was one day that marked the true beginning of my nightmare. Sophia was 3. I was making lunch when I heard the noise. Sabrina had deliberately spilled her cup of coffee on the kitchen floor. I saw her do it. Our eyes met. "Oh, I'm so clumsy," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Margaret, can you clean this up? After all, you don't work. You have all the time in the world." Something in her tone chilled my blood. It wasn't a request. It was an order disguised as an accident. I cleaned the coffee, and the next day, I cleaned up another accident, and another, and another. The following years were a downward spiral I didn't know how to escape. I was assigned tasks as if I were part of the house's inventory. Cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Wash everyone's clothes. Iron Matthew's shirts, and Sabrina's dresses. Clean the 3 bathrooms. Mop, dust, tidy up. Meanwhile, Sabrina and Matthew went out to fancy restaurants. They traveled to Miami, Las Vegas, and on Caribbean cruises. They came back tanned and happy, with suitcases full of new clothes. "Mom, I brought you this shawl." "I saw it and thought of you," Matthew would say, handing me something that was clearly the cheapest thing in the souvenir shop. I would smile and fold it in my tiny closet. Because yes, my closet was tiny. 8 years ago, Sabrina came into my bedroom, the master bedroom, the one I had shared with Arthur for 35 years. "Margaret, we need this room. It's bigger, and Matthew needs space for his home office. You'll be more comfortable in the storage room off the laundry." It's cozy, the storage room, 10 feet by 8 feet, next to the laundry, where the noise from the washer woke me up every morning at 6, where the heat was unbearable in the summer because it had no fan, where the smell of detergent seeped into my clothes, my hair, my lungs. But the room wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the loneliness. My only refuge was Thursdays. Every Thursday, at 4 in the afternoon, I met with my quilting group at Helen's house. We were 6 ladies, all widows or divorced, all with stories to tell while we quilted blankets, placemats, shirts. Sabrina hated those Thursdays. "You're going out again?" "Sophia needs you," she'd say, even though Sophia was perfectly fine playing on her tablet. "You're so selfish, Margaret. You only think about yourself." But I went. It was the only thing I had left of myself. Until 3 months ago, something happened that should have opened my eyes for good. It was my birthday, 68 years old. I asked Sabrina, a month in advance, if I could use the living room to invite my friends from the quilting group. We just wanted to have coffee, eat cake, chat. "Of course, Margaret, it's your house too," she said with that perfect smile I had learned to distrust. The day of my birthday, I came home from grocery shopping. I opened the door and found the living room full of Sabrina's friends. Loud music, bottles of wine, appetizers everywhere. "Margaret, just in time," Sabrina shouted over the music. "We organized a last-minute get-together. Can you bring us more ice?" My friends were waiting for me at Helen's house. I had to call them to cancel. Something came up, I told them, my voice breaking. Helen didn't believe me. Margaret, what is going on in that house? Nothing, Helen. Everything is fine. But nothing was fine. And that day, while I served ice to Sabrina's friends in my own living room, on my birthday, something inside me began to die. Or maybe it began to wake up. Because 3 months later, on Sophia's birthday, when Sabrina screamed at me in front of everyone that I was worthless, that part of me that had been asleep, humiliated, and trampled on for 12 years, finally said enough. Helen opened the door for me at 8 o'clock at night. She was wearing her flowered cotton robe, the one she wears when she's not expecting visitors, and her reading glasses hung from a gold chain. One look at my face was all it took for me to know she had been waiting for me. Come in, Margaret. The tea is already on. She didn't ask what happened. Helen has that wisdom that only 70 years of life and 40 of friendship can give. She knew I would talk when I was ready. I sat in her kitchen, at that wooden table where we had quilted so many afternoons, where we had cried for our dead husbands, where we had laughed until our stomachs hurt. The smell of chamomile tea wrapped around me like a hug. She screamed at me, I finally said. In front of 30 people, she said I was worthless. Helen poured the tea into those white porcelain cups she treasures. She said nothing. She just waited. And then I fell apart. I told her everything. Not just about Sophia's birthday, but everything else. The 12 years of small, daily deaths, the looks of contempt, the accidents with the coffee, how they had taken my bedroom, how I had spent my last birthday serving ice. I sleep next to the laundry room, Helen. In a room that doesn't even have a real window. Just a skylight that lets in the sun and wakes me up at 5 in the morning. Helen set her cup down on the table with a sharp click. And the house? Whose name is the house in? I blinked. I hadn't thought about that in years. Arthur left it to me. I think. You think? Helen stood up with an energy I hadn't seen in months. Margaret, where are the papers for the house? In the study. But it's Sabrina's office now. She keeps everything locked. Helen went to her room and came back with a folder. She opened it on the table and pulled out documents I recognized immediately. They were copies of the deeds Arthur and I had signed when we bought the house. 38 years ago. When Arthur died, did you sign anything to transfer the property? I searched my memory. I remembered the first few months, the pain, the confusion, the meetings with lawyers, the inheritance papers, the will. No, Arthur left everything to me. There was nothing to transfer. I was the sole heir. Then the house is still in your name, Margaret. Your name. Not Matthew's. Not Sabrina's. Yours. Those words hit me like cold water. For 12 years I had felt like an uncomfortable guest, like someone who should be grateful for a roof over her head. Sabrina had repeated it to me so many times that I ended up believing it. But the house was mine. You need to see those papers, Helen insisted. You need to know exactly what documents are in that office and why Sabrina has them under lock and key. I stayed at Helen's house that night. And the next. And the next. Matthew called on the second day. His voice sounded tense, uncomfortable. Mom? Where are you? We're worried. Worried? What a curious word. I'm fine, Matthew. I need time to think. Look, Mom, I already spoke to Sabrina. She overreacted, okay? You know how she gets when she's stressed. With Sophia's party, the expenses, all of it. Come home. We can talk about it. I heard a noise in the background. Sabrina's voice, though I couldn't make out what she was saying. I'm not coming back yet. What? Matthew's voice went up an octave. Mom, don't be dramatic. It's your house, too. My house, too. As if it were a concession. As if they were doing me a favor. Goodbye, Matthew. I hung up before he could answer. My hands were shaking. During those 3 days, Helen and I talked like we hadn't in years. She told me things she had noticed but had never said, respecting my dignity, waiting for me to see it for myself. 2 years ago, at the neighborhood Christmas party, Sabrina told the neighbors, you were having memory problems. That you were forgetting things, getting confused. I froze. I don't forget anything, Helen. I know, but she's planting the idea. Preparing the ground. For what? Helen looked at me with those gray eyes that had seen too much of the world. To declare you incompetent, Margaret. To take everything from you. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in the bed in Helen's guest room, staring at the ceiling, feeling the pieces of a puzzle I didn't know I was assembling begin to fit. The comments about my age, the jokes about my memory, the way Sabrina always interrupted me when I was talking to other people, finishing my sentences, correcting what I said. It wasn't carelessness. It wasn't casual disrespect. It was a plan. On the third day, Helen made scrambled eggs and toast for breakfast. We sat in her small dining room, the morning sun streaming through the window, and she said something that would change everything. I have a nephew, Gregory. He's a lawyer, specializing in family law. Cases like yours, cases like mine, financial and emotional elder abuse by family members. It's more common than you think, Margaret. And it's a crime. The word crime hit me in the chest. I didn't want to get my son into legal trouble. I just wanted. What did I want? Respect? My house back? My life? I don't know, Helen. He's my son, and you are his mother, the woman who bore him, raised him, loved him. Doesn't that count? I had no answer for that. That afternoon, Matthew showed up at Helen's house. He brought flowers, the kind they sell at the grocery store, wrapped in cellophane. He looked tired, but not sorry. Mom, enough with the drama. Let's go home. This isn't drama, Matthew. Sabrina is very sorry. She already talked to Sophia. Explained there was a misunderstanding. The girl misses you. Always, Sophia. They always used my granddaughter as emotional bait. And you, Matthew? What do you think about all this? He shifted uncomfortably in Helen's dining room chair. I think we all got upset. But we're family. Families fight and they forgive. When she screamed at me, you said nothing. You just sat there. I didn't want to make things worse. You didn't want to make your wife uncomfortable. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with truths neither of us wanted to face. Finally, Matthew sighed. What do you want me to do, Mom? Divorce her? Sabrina is the mother of my child, and I was his mother. But apparently, that mattered less. I'm going home, I said finally. But things are going to change, Matthew. I'm going to change. I went back to my house that afternoon. Sabrina was waiting for me in the living room. When she saw me walk in, her eyes filled with tears. She ran to me and hugged me. Margaret, forgive me. I don't know what got into me. The stress, the worries. I said horrible things I didn't mean. Her hug felt fake, like everything else. But I hugged her back because Matthew was watching us from the stairs with hope in his eyes. It's okay, Sabrina. You really forgive me? Her tears were dampening my blouse. Really, but inside, something had changed. As I held her, smelling her expensive perfume and her crocodile tears, I remembered Helen's words. She's preparing the ground to take everything from you. And in that moment, hugging my daughter-in-law who was crying fake tears, I made a decision. If she was playing chess, I was going to play too. But she didn't know she had just woken up an opponent who had spent 12 years studying her every move. The first few days after my return were strangely calm. Sabrina acted as if we were best friends. She'd ask if I slept well, poured me coffee in the mornings, even offered to help me make dinner. It was all such a perfect lie, it was almost laughable. Matthew seemed relieved. See, Mom? You just needed to talk. Things can work when we all do our part. I nodded, smiled, played along. But at night, in my room next to the laundry, with the smell of detergent embedded in the sheets, I thought, I planned. I remembered every detail of what Helen had told me. The following Thursday, I went to my quilting meeting. Sabrina didn't object. Of course, Margaret, enjoy your afternoon with the ladies. You deserve it. That kindness made me more nervous than her screaming. At Helen's house, my friends greeted me with hugs and worried looks. They all knew what had happened at Sophia's birthday party. News travels fast in our neighborhood. Are you okay, Margaret? Asked Grace, the youngest of the group, barely 62. I'm learning, I replied. Helen pulled me aside into her kitchen, while the others got out their threads and quilting hoops. My nephew, Gregory, wants to talk to you. He says it's urgent. Why urgent? Because he did some digging. And he found things, Margaret. Things you need to know. 2 days later, on a Saturday afternoon, While Sabrina and Matthew had taken Sophia to the movies, I went to Gregory's office. It was a modest building downtown, 3rd floor, no elevator. I climbed the stairs with my heart pounding against my ribs. Gregory was a man of about 45, with glasses and a kind smile that reminded me of Helen. He offered me water, coffee, a comfortable chair in front of his desk, which was piled high with files. "Mrs. Margaret," he said, "my aunt told me about your situation. I did a little research, with her permission, and there are things you need to know." He pulled out a folder. He opened it in front of me. Sabrina Hayes, 39 years old, compromised credit history. She owes a total of $180,000 between 3 credit cards, 2 personal loans, and a car loan. I couldn't breathe. $180,000? The interest is eating her alive. Excessive purchases, trips, restaurants. The spending pattern is unsustainable. I thought about all those trips to Miami, the designer clothes, the expensive shoes, the dinners at restaurants where one dish cost what I spent on groceries for a week. "That's why she needs the house," I said softly. "Exactly. Your house, according to the county assessor, has an approximate value of $850,000. My heart sank. I remembered the email. I had to correct him. "I think it's more. I think it's worth millions." Gregory paused. "Let me check the—" "Oh, you're right. The assessment I pulled was old. The current market value is $3,850,000. My correction made it worse. "If she manages to sell it," he continued, "she can pay her debts and have plenty left over to start a new life. But there's a problem. The house is in my name, correct? And according to the law, as long as you are alive and of sound mind, no one can touch that property without your consent." The word "alive" echoed in my head in a way I didn't like. "And if someone declared me mentally incompetent?" Gregory looked at me with those eyes that had seen too many cases like mine. "Then your son, as the direct relative, could petition for legal guardianship. And with that guardianship, he could make decisions about your assets, including selling the house. Even if I disagree? If you are declared legally incompetent, your opinion no longer matters under the law." I leaned back in the chair. I felt the walls closing in. "My aunt told me Sabrina has been commenting in the neighborhood about your supposed memory problems." "I don't have memory problems. I know. But she's building a narrative. Witnesses who can testify that you forget things, that you get confused, that you need supervision. It's a slow but effective process. What can I do?" Gregory closed the folder and looked at me directly. "Protect yourself, document everything, and be prepared for what's coming." I returned home with my head spinning, $180,000 in debt. My house worth almost $4 million. The pieces fit together with a clarity that made me sick. That night, at dinner, Sabrina dropped the bomb. "Margaret, we need to talk about something important." Matthew put his fork down. Sophia was playing on her tablet in the living room. "We want to remodel the house. It's needed a renovation for years. The bathrooms, the kitchen, the bedrooms, everything." "Remodel?" I repeated. "Yes. We've been saving, but it's not enough. We need about $75,000 to start." $75,000. "I don't have that kind of money, Sabrina. But you have the necklace." Her voice was still sweet, but there was steel underneath. "That opal necklace you guard so closely. My aunt has a jewelry store on the Magnificent Mile. She could appraise it, give you a good price. It's already been appraised. $90,000. Sabrina's eyes lit up. "See? Perfect. You sell the necklace. We use $75,000 for the remodel, and you keep $15,000. It's a win-win. To remodel my house?" "Our house, Margaret," Matthew chimed in for the first time. "We all live here. We all benefit." I stared at my plate of lentil soup. The spoon was trembling in my hand. "I'll think about it. There's not much to think about, Mom." Matthew's voice hardened. "It's only fair. We pay the utilities, the food, everything. I'll think about it, the real face behind the mask." "I'll think about it," I repeated. Sabrina smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. "Don't take too long, Margaret. Building materials are getting more expensive every day. That night, when everyone was asleep, I went down to the kitchen for a glass of water. The house was dark, silent. I passed by the study. Sabrina's office. The door was slightly ajar. My heart was beating so loud I thought it would give me away. I went in. The desk was tidy, almost obsessively so. Colored folders, pens arranged by size, a closed laptop. I searched the drawers with trembling hands. In the third drawer, under some furniture catalogs, I found a green plastic folder. I opened it, and my world stopped. They were property transfer documents. My house? But the signatures weren't mine. Someone had forged my signature on at least 5 different documents. Deeds, powers of attorney, sale authorizations. All of it was fake. I kept digging. Behind the green folder were envelopes. I opened one, printed emails. Between Sabrina and a real estate office in Lincoln Park. Dear Mrs. Hayes, we confirm receipt of documentation. The house in Lincoln Park is ready to be listed as soon as we have the final deed. Suggested price, $3,850,000. Our commission is 4%. Awaiting news. The date on the email. 2 weeks ago, there was another envelope. This one with the letterhead of a law firm. Subject, process for declaration of mental incompetency. Client, Sabrina Hayes. Subject, Margaret, my full name. Appointment, November 20, 8th 10:30 a.m. November 28th, 15 days from now. I took out my phone. With trembling hands, I photographed every document, every email, every paper in that cursed folder. When I finished, I put everything back exactly as I had found it. I closed the drawer. I left the office like a ghost. In my room, I sat on the bed and looked at the photos on my phone. The evidence was there, clear, irrefutable. Sabrina didn't just want to take my house. She wanted to erase me, declare me incompetent, sell everything. And Matthew, my son, did he know? Was he an accomplice, or just an idiot blinded by his wife? I didn't know, and that doubt hurt more than all the humiliations combined. But one thing I did know. I couldn't play the victim anymore. I opened my phone to text Helen. It was 2 a.m, but I had to write. Helen, I have the proof. Everything. I'm going to Gregory tomorrow. This ends now. Her reply came in seconds. It's about time, Margaret. It's about time. I lay down with the phone against my chest, feeling something I had forgotten existed for the first time in 12 years. Power. Sunday dawned with an aggressive sun that pierced through the skylight of my room. Sabrina made a special breakfast. Pancakes and bacon, fresh squeezed orange juice. The smell filled the house. Sit down, Margaret. I'm cooking today. You rest. Matthew was reading the newspaper. Sophia was coloring in her princess book. It all looked like a perfect family scene from a magazine. But I had seen the documents. I knew the truth. And now, every smile from Sabrina felt like the edge of a knife. Have you thought about the necklace? Sabrina asked as she poured coffee. The remodel can't wait. There's dampness in the walls, Margaret. If we don't fix it soon, it'll get worse. I'm still thinking about it. What's there to think about? Matthew put down the paper. Mom, the necklace is just sitting in a box. You don't use it. You don't enjoy it. At least let it be used for something useful. Something useful, like paying his wife's debts. It's the only thing I have left of my mother. And this house is the only thing we have left of Dad. Sabrina sat across from me. She took my hand. Her fingers were cold. He would want us to take care of it, don't you think? To keep it beautiful. The manipulation was so obvious it was disgusting. But I smiled. You're right. Let me talk to the appraiser this week. Sabrina's eyes lit up. Really? Really? But I want to make sure I get the best price. Of course. My aunt can help. She knows the best jewelers in the city. I'm sure she did. Jewelers who would give her a commission for every piece she brought them. That afternoon, while Sabrina took Sophia to a birthday party and Matthew took a nap, I went back to the study, this time, more prepared. I had my phone fully charged and a mental list of what I needed to find. I opened the drawer again. The green folder was still there, but this time I dug deeper. Behind the furniture catalogs, I found another folder. This one was red, thicker. I opened it, and I felt the floor move beneath my feet. They were account statements, from credit cards in Sabrina's name. The numbers were even worse than Gregory had said. Visa, owed $287,450. Interest rate, 42% APR. Nordstrom card, owed $6,890. American Express, owed $312,670. There was more. Loans from pawn shops, signed IOUs, even a loan from a payday lender with an interest rate of 8% a month. How had she reached this point? I looked at the dates. The spending went back 5 years. Dinners for $3,000, shoes for $12,000, a designer handbag that cost $45,000, all while I slept in a storage room and wore the same clothes I'd had for 10 years. But the worst part was at the bottom of the folder. A printed document. An email between Sabrina and someone named Scott Jennings, attorney at law. Dear Sabrina, regarding your consultation on the process of mental incapacity for seniors, I confirm we need 2 witnesses to testify to erratic behavior or memory loss. Psychiatric evaluation. I can recommend professionals who understand the situation. Documentation showing the subject cannot manage her finances. The process takes 3 to 6 months. Once declared incompetent, you and your husband, as direct relatives, can petition for guardianship. With guardianship, you have total control over her assets, including the sale of properties. My fee is $8,500, payable in 2 installments. I await your instructions, Scott Jennings. Date, September 15th. 2 months ago. Her reply was dated a week later. Scott, perfect. I already have the witnesses. My neighbor, Brenda, and my sister-in-law, Karen. Both have noticed Margaret's decline. When can we start? Time is of the essence. I need liquidity urgently, Sabrina. I photographed everything. Every page, every email, every statement. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I was beyond fear. I was in a place of absolute clarity, cold and sharp as ice. There were 2 witnesses. Brenda, my neighbor from 3 houses down, with whom I had shared coffee hundreds of times. Karen, Matthew's sister, whom I had helped raise when she was a girl, whom I had helped when she got divorced, both willing to lie. To say I was losing my mind. For money. For loyalty to Sabrina. For reasons I would probably never understand. I kept searching. In the bottom drawer, I found something that broke my heart. A manila envelope. Inside, brochures for nursing homes. 3 different ones, with information filled out by hand. My name, my age, suggested diagnosis. Incipient senile dementia, requires constant supervision. One of the brochures was marked up with a highlighter. Serenity Meadows Residence. Comprehensive care for seniors, starting at $6,000 a month. There was a sticky note attached. This one, far from the neighborhood, no visits without family authorization. The handwriting was Sabrina's. I sat in the desk chair, surrounded by evidence of my own planned destruction. I didn't cry. I had no tears left for this. Sabrina didn't just want my house. She wanted to erase me. Put me in a faraway home where no one could see me, where I couldn't defend myself or tell the truth. And then sell everything, pay her debts. Start over with my money, in my house, with my life buried in some $6,000 a month facility. I heard a car pull into the driveway. Voices. Sabrina was back. I put everything away quickly, closed the drawers. I walked out of the study just as the front door opened. Margaret? Where are you? Sabrina's voice sounded cheerful, false. Here, in the kitchen. My voice came out surprisingly calm. She walked in, carrying Sophia in her arms. My granddaughter's face was painted like a butterfly, with pink glitter on her cheeks. Look, Grandma, I'm a butterfly. You're beautiful, sweetie. Sabrina set her down. Go wash your face, Sophia. Be careful on the stairs. When the girl went up, Sabrina approached me. Her smile was perfect. So, when are we going to see my aunt? the jeweler. Wednesday is good. Perfect. The sooner, the better. I've already hired the architect to come do the remodeling budget. He's coming on Friday. She was moving so fast, so sure of her victory. One more question, Margaret. She sat at the kitchen table, crossing her legs. Have you updated your will? At your age, it's important to have everything in order. There it was. The real question. I haven't thought about it. You should. For Sophia, for Matthew. So there are no problems. Later. Later. When I was gone. Or when I was locked away in a home, declared incompetent. I'll think about it. I can recommend a notary, a friend of Scott's, my lawyer. He does excellent work. Scott. The same lawyer from the emails. The one who charged $8,500 to legally erase me. Thank you, Sabrina. You're very kind. That's what we're here for. We're family. Family. That word she had used as a shield, as an excuse, as a prison for 12 years. That night, after dinner, I feigned a headache and went to my room early. I locked the door. I sat on the bed with my phone. I sent all the photos to Helen and Gregory, every document, every email, every statement. Gregory's response came in 20 minutes. Mrs. Margaret, this is enough to press criminal charges. Forgery, attempted fraud, conspiracy to commit theft. We are talking 2 to 12 years in prison. I need to see you first thing tomorrow. We are going to stop this before it's too late. Helen called me. Her voice sounded strange, tense. Margaret, are you okay? Are you sure you want to do this? Do what, Helen? Press charges. She's your granddaughter's mother. She's your son's wife. This is going to blow up your family. I looked around my tiny room. The smell of detergent, the narrow bed, the skylight where the sun came in every morning to wake me up far too early. My family already blew up, Helen. I've just been in denial for 12 years. Silence on the other end. All right. Then we're going to do this right. We are going to protect you. And we're going to make sure she can never do this to anyone else. I hung up and lay down. For the first time in months, I slept soundly. Because I knew the war had begun, and this time, I wasn't going to be the victim. Monday at 9 in the morning, I was at Gregory's office. This time, I didn't climb the stairs with fear. I climbed them with purpose. Helen was already there, sitting across from her nephew's desk. She hugged me when I came in. You brought everything? I put my phone on the desk. It's all here. Photos, documents, emails, everything. Gregory connected my phone to his computer and started reviewing the images. His face grew more serious with each photo. This is bad, Mrs. Margaret. Very bad. How bad? Forgery of official documents is a felony, 2 to 8 years in prison. Attempted theft, 6 months to 3 years. Fraud, 3 months to 12 years depending on the amount. And if we add the fraudulent attempt to declare incapacity. He took off his glasses and looked at me directly. We are talking about a sentence that could be as high as 12 years. Sabrina Hayes committed several serious crimes. 12 years. Sophia would be 24 when her mother got out. My granddaughter, I whispered. I know. Gregory closed his laptop. That's why we need to do this correctly. It's not just about punishment. It's about protecting you and, deep down, protecting that little girl, too. How? We're going to build a solid case. We're going to gather more evidence. And we're going to make sure that when this blows up, you are completely protected, legally and physically. Helen took my hand. Gregory found more. The lawyer opened a new folder on his desk. I made some calls. Contacts in the financial sector. Sabrina doesn't just owe $180,000. She has more debts that don't appear on her official credit report. More? Private loans? Money she borrowed from friends, family. I found at least 4 people she borrowed from and never paid back. Sums ranging from $2,000 to $10,000. He did the math on his calculator. We are talking about a real debt that exceeds $250,000. I was speechless. $250,000. And she wanted to solve it with my house, my necklace, my life. There's more, Gregory continued. I investigated the witnesses she mentioned in the email. Brenda and Karen. Karen, Matthew's sister. My own sister-in-law. What did you find? Brenda received a payment from Sabrina 3 weeks ago. $3,000. Bank transfer. Labeled loan. But there's no loan documentation. She paid her to lie about me. It appears so. As for Karen, Gregory hesitated. She has 2 credit cards that Sabrina co-signed for. If Karen doesn't pay, Sabrina is responsible. It's a form of mutual blackmail. Sabrina has leverage over her. My own sister-in-law. The girl I helped raise when my mother-in-law, got sick. The young woman who cried in my arms when she got divorced. And Matthew? I asked, my voice broken. Does my son know all this? Gregory exchanged a look with Helen. That's the question we need to answer. Is he an accomplice, or is he another victim? How do we find out? By watching him, documenting, seeing if he signs any documents, if he participates in the conversations about the sale. For now, we don't know. That uncertainty was killing me inside. I needed to know if my son, the boy I had carried, raised, and loved for 42 years, was participating in my destruction. What do we do now? I asked. First, we protect you. Gregory pulled out several documents. I need you to sign this. It's a notarized affidavit stating you are of sound mind. We are also going to get a full psychological evaluation from a certified physician. Why? To have irrefutable proof that you are well. When Sabrina tries to declare you incompetent, we will have dated evidence proving the contrary. And my bank accounts? I already checked. You have $63,000 in the bank. It's not much, but it's yours. I suggest you transfer it to a new account, at a different bank, in your name only. No beneficiaries. What if Sabrina notices? Let her notice. She can't access that money anymore. I also suggest you get the opal necklace out of the house. Store it somewhere safe. Helen chimed in. You can leave it at my house, Margaret. In my safe. I nodded. Everything was happening so fast. Second, Gregory continued, we document everything. Every conversation with Sabrina, every demand, every threat. Your phone has a voice recorder. Use it. In this state, recordings are admissible as evidence if one party in the conversation is aware it's being recorded. You want me to record my daughter-in-law? I want you to protect yourself, Mrs. Margaret. Sabrina is planning to destroy you. You have the right to defend yourself. He was right. But recording conversations, collecting evidence. I felt like a spy in my own home. And then? When do we press charges? When we have enough evidence of a completed attempt. Right now, we only have forged documents that haven't been officially used. We need her to take the next step, to try to use those documents, to move forward with the incompetency proceeding. That's when we act. Let her move forward, just a little more, enough for the crime to be completed and the case to be solid. But I will be monitoring everything. At the first sign of real danger, we act. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff. There's one more thing, Gregory said. I need you to think about what you want to happen afterward. Afterward? When all this comes to light, when Sabrina is arrested. What do you want to happen with your son? With your house? With Sophia? I hadn't thought that far ahead. I had been so focused on surviving that I hadn't planned for after. I need time to think. Take it, but think carefully, because the decisions you make now will define the rest of your life. I left that office with a folder full of documents to sign, a list of things to do, and a weight in my chest I couldn't tell if was fear or hope. Helen took me to her house. We got the opal necklace that same afternoon. I went back to my house, entered the storage room, and moved the loose floorboard where I had hidden the box for years. The necklace was still there, wrapped in black velvet. The opals glowed with that internal light that changed color with the angle. Blues, greens, oranges, like tiny galaxies trapped in stone. Forgive me, Mom, I whispered, but I need to do this. I put it in my purse and walked out as if nothing had happened. Sabrina was in the living room watching TV. You went out, Margaret? For a walk. I needed some air. Oh well, tomorrow I'll go with you to my aunt's. The jeweler. Is 11 o'clock okay? Perfect. I smiled. She smiled. Two women playing chess, each believing she knew the next move. That night, in my room, I set up the voice recorder on my phone. I tested it several times until I understood how it worked. And then I called my quilting group, the 6 ladies who had known me for decades. I need to ask you a favor, I told them. A big favor. Whatever you need, Margaret, replied Grace. I told them everything. Not the legal details, but the gist. Sabrina was using me. She wanted to take my house. She had forged documents. And I needed help. I need witnesses, I said. People who can testify that I'm fine, that I don't have memory problems, that I'm not crazy. Of course we'll testify, said Evelyn, the oldest of the group, 73, and sharp-tongued. That woman is a snake. I always knew it. Count on me, said Beatrice. And Rose, and Carol, and Joan. All of them. My friends. My tribe. I also need you to be alert, I continued. If something happens to me, if I disappear, if they take me somewhere, I need you to find Helen, to call Gregory. Nothing is going to happen, Helen said firmly. Because now you're protected. You're not alone anymore. I hung up with tears in my eyes. But this time they were different tears, not of pain, but of gratitude, because Helen was right. For the first time in 12 years, I wasn't alone. I had a lawyer. I had evidence. I had witnesses. I had friends willing to fight with me. And Sabrina, with all her perfect plans and forged documents, had no idea what was coming for her. I went to bed that night thinking of my mother, of how she had taught me to quilt when I was a girl. Stitch by stitch, with patience, building something beautiful from nothing. Life is like a quilt, honey, she used to say. Sometimes you have to rip out all the seams and start over. But if you're patient and don't give up, in the end, something beautiful comes out. I had let my life be unraveled for 12 years, stitch by stitch, letting Sabrina weave her web around me. But now, I was quilting something new. And this time, the design was mine. Tuesday dawned gray. Low clouds that threatened rain but never delivered. Sabrina came into the kitchen radiant, wearing a wine-colored dress that surely cost more than I spent on groceries in 2 months. Ready to see my aunt? I touched my purse. Empty. The necklace was safe at Helen's house. Ready. Perfect. You'll love her. Her shop is in an upscale mall on the Magnificent Mile. She sells antiques, collector's items. She'll know the real value of your necklace. Her necklace. She had already claimed it in her mind. We got into Sabrina's car, a gray BMW she still had to finish paying for. The air conditioning smelled of her expensive perfume. I put my hand on my purse, feeling my phone inside. The recorder was on. Margaret, there's something I want to tell you. Her voice sounded sweet, almost affectionate. I know these last few years haven't been easy for either of us, but I want you to know that I appreciate you, that I value everything you've done for us. I kept my eyes on the window. Thank you, Sabrina. That's why I want you to understand that the remodel is important. It's not just for us. It's for you, too. Imagine having a new, safer bathroom, with grab bars, a shower with a non-slip floor. It would be perfect for your age. Grab bars. As if I were an invalid. Sounds nice. And I've also been thinking, she paused, as if choosing her words carefully. Matthew and I have talked. We think it would be good for you to have your own space. A smaller, more manageable little house. Something where you don't have to worry about stairs, about maintenance. There it was. The real plan. Sell my house and send me to a smaller, more manageable place. Probably that $6,000 a month nursing home. A small house or a condo in a secure building with people your age. You could make new friends, have activities. It would be liberating. Liberating. What a curious word to describe what she really wanted. To get rid of me. And you two would stay in the house? Well, it's logical, isn't it? We're younger. Sophia is growing. She needs space. And you would be more comfortable in something more appropriate for your stage of life. My stage of life. As if at 68 I already had one foot in the grave. It sounds like you have it all planned out. She laughed. A light, joyless laugh. It's not a plan, Margaret. It's just an idea. so we can all be better off. But first, we need the money from the necklace. To get started, we arrived at the mall. Underground parking, luxury stores, well-dressed people walking with bags from brands I could never afford. The jewelry store was called Antique Treasures, an elegant window display with antique pieces on black velvet. A woman of about 50 greeted us. She looked like Sabrina. Same perfect smile, same calculating eyes. "Sabrina, how wonderful," they kissed on the cheek. "Is this your mother-in-law?" "Margaret, this is my Aunt Barbara." "A pleasure, ma'am." She extended her hand, cold, with rings on every finger. "Likewise, Sabrina mentioned you have an opal necklace." Opals are very special stones, highly valued by collectors. "Yes, it's an antique. Did you bring it?" I touched my empty purse. I couldn't find it. The silence that followed was as taut as a wire about to snap. "What do you mean? You couldn't find it?" Sabrina's voice went up an octave. "I looked in my room. Everywhere. It's not there. Margaret, you kept it under the loose floorboard. It's always been there." Interesting. She knew exactly where I kept it. How many times had she gone snooping in my room when I wasn't there? "Well, it's not there anymore. This is ridiculous." Sabrina turned to her aunt. "Excuse us. My mother-in-law has been forgetful lately." There it was. The word forgetful, planting the seed in front of a witness. "I'm not forgetful, Sabrina. I just can't find the necklace, because you don't remember where you put it." She turned to me with that exaggerated patience one uses with children. "Margaret, think. When was the last time you saw it?" "Last week. It was in its spot, and now it's not?" "No." Sabrina pressed her lips together. I could see the calculation behind her eyes. What to do now? How to control this? "Let's go home," she said finally. "We'll look for it together." In the car, the silence was heavy. Sabrina drove with a clenched jaw, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Margaret, did you tell anyone about the necklace?" "No." "Are you sure? You didn't mention it to your friends from the quilting group?" "Why would I do that?" "I don't know. Maybe you took it out to show them and forgot it at one of their houses, trying to make me seem careless, senile. I didn't do that. Or maybe—" She glanced at me for a second before turning back to the road. "Maybe someone broke into the house. A robbery, nothing else is missing. Just the necklace. How convenient, right? Just when we need it." Her tone had changed. It wasn't sweet anymore. It was accusatory. "What are you implying, Sabrina?" "Nothing, Margaret. I just find it strange that the necklace suddenly disappeared." We got home. Matthew was in the living room with his laptop. He looked up when we walked in. "How'd it go?" "Your mother lost the necklace," Sabrina spat. "What do you mean, she lost it?" "I didn't lose it. It's not where I always kept it." Sabrina gently pushed me toward the stairs. "Let's go to your room. We're going to find it." We went up. Sabrina practically ripped the loose floorboard up. The empty box was still there, its black velvet lining intact. "See? Here's the box. Empty." She looked at me with those eyes that had faked sweetness for so long. "Where is the necklace, Margaret?" "I don't know. Of course you know." Her voice rose, losing control. "Did you sell it? Behind my back? Did you keep the money?" Matthew appeared in the doorway. "Sabrina, calm down." "I will not calm down. That necklace was worth $90,000. We needed it." "You needed it," I said quietly. "What did you say?" "I said you needed it. To pay your debts." The silence was absolute. Sabrina looked at me as if I had grown a second head. "My debts? I don't have any debts. $850,000 on credit cards, personal loans, pawn shops." I used the higher number I'd seen in the file. Matthew took a step forward. "Mom, what are you talking about?" "About the truth, about why Sabrina needs so much money, about why she wants to sell my house." Sabrina laughed, a hysterical, humorless laugh. "Now it turns out your mother is a detective." "What else did you make up, Margaret? That I'm robbing you? That I want to send you to a nursing home?" I didn't answer. I just looked at her, and in that silence, something happened in her face. A fraction of a second, where fear replaced the rage. She knew that I knew. "Matthew," I said, without taking my eyes off Sabrina. Ask your wife how much she owes. Ask her why she gets calls from collectors. Ask her about the bank statements she keeps in her office. You're delirious, Sabrina said, but her voice was trembling. Is it true? Matthew looked at his wife. Do you have debts? Everyone has debts. 1 or 2 cards. It's not a big deal. How much? Matthew, now is not the time. How much? Sabrina closed her eyes. When she opened them, there were tears. Real tears this time, of fear, of cornered rage. 200,000, maybe 3. It's manageable. She was lying. Even now, backed into a corner, she was still lying. Are there documents? I said. In your office. Statements that add up to a lot more than 300,000. You had no right to snoop in my office. You had no right to forge my signature. That stopped her cold. Matthew looked back and forth between us, as if we were strangers. Is someone going to explain what is happening? Your wife forged documents for the house. Property transfer documents. With my signature. She's planning to sell my house to pay her debts. That's a lie. You're making things up because you're not well, Margaret. There it was again. The insinuation of dementia. I am perfectly well. Oh, really? Sabrina's voice was dripping with sarcasm. The woman who lost a $90,000 necklace is perfectly well? The woman who accuses her family of robbing her is perfectly well? She turned to Matthew. You see what I'm telling you? Your mother needs help. Professional help. I don't need help. I need to be left alone. Alone? Sabrina laughed again. You know what, Margaret? Maybe you're right. Maybe you should leave. Get your own apartment. Live alone. Because clearly, we're not a family anymore. We were never a family. I was your servant for 12 years. We gave you a roof over your head. It was my house. My scream echoed in the small room. Matthew took a step back. Sabrina was paralyzed. This house is mine, I continued, my voice shaking but firm. Arthur left it to me. Not to you, not to Matthew, to M.E. And for 12 years, I let you convince me I was a guest, that I should be grateful, that I was worthless. Mom. No, Matthew. Let me finish. You took my bedroom. You put me in a storage room. You treated me like an employee. And when I finally said no, when I finally set a boundary, you screamed at me in front of 30 people that I was worthless. Tears were streaming down my face now. Tears from 12 years of humiliation, of buried pain, of trampled dignity. So, no, I'm not selling my necklace. I'm not remodeling my house for you to be comfortable. And I am definitely not letting you declare me incompetent to steal the only thing I have left. Sabrina turned pale. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm talking about the lawyer, Scott Jennings. I'm talking about the $8,500 it costs to declare someone incompetent. I'm talking about Brenda and Karen, your paid-off witnesses. You're insane. No. But you wanted me to be, didn't you? I walked out of the room. I went down the stairs, my legs shaking. I grabbed my purse, my sweater. Where are you going? Matthew followed me down. Somewhere I'm not treated like trash. Mom, wait. We can talk about this. I stopped at the door. I turned to look at my son. My only son. The boy I had carried in my womb, that I had raised with all my love. When she screamed at me at Sophia's birthday, you said nothing. That was your answer, Matthew. Your silence. I didn't know what to do. You knew what to do. Defend your mother, but you chose not to. I walked out and closed the door behind me. I walked the 3 blocks to Helen's house. I rang the bell. When she opened the door and saw my face, she hugged me without asking a single question. It's over, she whispered. It's over, Margaret. The worst is over. But she was wrong. The worst was just beginning. I stayed at Helen's house that night, and the next, and the next. This time, it wasn't an escape. It was strategy. Gregory called me on the 3rd day. Mrs. Margaret, we need to act fast. Sabrina has accelerated the process. She filed a petition for a psychiatric evaluation with a family court judge. She claims you are exhibiting erratic behavior, that you've lost valuable items, and that you're making baseless accusations. Can she do that? She already did. You have a court order for an evaluation within 5 days. If you don't show up, the judge can interpret that as evidence of your incapacity. And if I do show up, the psychiatrist Sabrina chose is. Let's just say he has a reputation for being agreeable to whoever pays him. But I have a better plan. What is it? We get ahead of it. We file our own lawsuit first. With all the evidence we have. We put all our cards on the table before she has a chance to manipulate the process. When? Tomorrow. I'm filing the criminal complaint for forgery and attempted theft, and you are going to return to your house with full legal protection. I barely slept that night. I knew that the next day, everything would explode. There was no turning back. Saturday dawned with a perfect blue sky. Ironic, considering the storm that was about to break. At 9 in the morning, Sabrina organized. A dinner? No, it was earlier. She called the whole family. Her mother, her 2 sisters, Karen, Matthew's sister, even some close neighbors, 12 people in total. Helen called me at 10. Margaret, my neighbor just told me. There are a lot of people going into your house. What's happening? Sabrina is making her final move. What are you doing here? You should be at your house. I'm on my way. It's time. I got dressed in my best clothes. A pair of beige slacks and a blouse I had bought years ago when Arthur was still alive. I combed my hair carefully. I put on a little makeup. I needed to look dignified, competent, sane. Gregory picked me up at 11. He was carrying a briefcase full of documents. Ready? Ready. We arrived at my house at noon. There were several cars parked out front. I heard voices, laughter from inside. Remember, Gregory said, stay calm. It doesn't matter what they say. You have the truth and the law on your side. I opened the door with my own keys. The living room was full. Sabrina had set up a table with appetizers, wine, sodas. White and gold balloons hung from the ceiling, as if it were a celebration. The conversation stopped when I walked in. Everyone stared at me. Margaret. Sabrina walked over, smiling. So glad you came. We wanted to talk to you. Talk about what? About your future. About how we can help you. I looked around. I recognized everyone. Sabrina's mother, Diane, sitting in my armchair with a glass of wine. Sabrina's sisters, Megan and Lauren, one on each side. Karen, my sister-in-law, avoiding my gaze. Brenda, my neighbor, the one Sabrina had paid $3,000 for her false testimony. And Matthew, standing by the window, his arms crossed. Sit down, Mom. Matthew pointed to a chair in the middle of the living room, as if I were before a tribunal. I'd rather stand. Margaret, Sabrina began, with that sweet voice that no longer fooled me. Everyone here loves you. We appreciate you. That's why we're worried. Worried? About your health. Your well-being. She paused dramatically. Lately, you've been different. Different how? Forgetful, Diane chimed in. Sabrina tells me you lost a very valuable necklace. I didn't lose it. You've also been making accusations, continued Megan, Sabrina's older sister, saying Sabrina wants to rob you. That's not normal, Margaret. They're not accusations. They're facts. See? Sabrina looked at the others with a worried expression. She keeps insisting the family is out to get her. It's part of her condition. I don't have a condition. Brenda cleared her throat. Margaret, I've seen you these past few weeks. You seem confused. The other day you asked me if it was Tuesday when it was Thursday. A lie. We had never had that conversation. That's false. And I've noticed you repeat the same stories, Karen added, her voice trembling, as if you don't remember you've already told them. Another lie. My own sister-in-law, lying out of fear or complicity. Margaret, Sabrina took my hand. I pulled it away. We want what's best for you. That's why we've decided, all of us together, that you need professional help. Professional help? A place where they can take care of you. Where you'll have nurses, doctors, activities appropriate for your age. A nursing home. A specialized care residence, Diane corrected. My cousin is in one. It's beautiful. Gardens, painting classes, they even have Sunday service. I am not going to any nursing home. Mom, be reasonable. Matthew approached. You can't live alone anymore. It's not safe. This is my house. It was your house. Sabrina dropped the words like stones. But now we need to think about what's practical. Matthew and I are going to stay here. Sophia needs stability. And you'll be better cared for in a professional facility. Did you sign the papers? I asked Matthew. Did you already transfer the house to your name? Mom, answer me. Did you sign property transfer documents? His silence was answer enough. I see. I felt something break inside me. The last thread connecting me to my son. So you are an accomplice. I'm not an accomplice to anything. I'm taking care of you. Taking care of me? I laughed. A dry, humorless laugh. Is that what you call putting me in a home while you steal my house? It's for your own good. It's for $850,000 of your wife's debt. The silence that followed was deafening. Sabrina went pale. The sisters exchanged glances. I don't know what you're talking about, Sabrina said, her voice tight. I'm talking about your credit cards, your loans, your desperate need for money. I turned to the guests. Sabrina owes more than $1 million. She needs to sell this house to pay it off. But the house is mine. So her plan is to declare me incompetent to take control. That's ridiculous, Sabrina spat. Is it? I took out my phone. Because I have photos of the documents. Bank statements. Emails with the lawyer, Scott Jennings. Everything. I passed the phone around. The photos circulated. I watched as faces changed. Surprise. Shock. Discomfort. Diane looked at her daughter. Sabrina, is this true? There. Things taken out of context. Is $1,200,000 context? Asked Lauren, her younger sister. And there's more, I continued. I looked at Brenda. Do you want to tell them about the $3,000 Sabrina paid you? Or should I? Brenda turned bright red. She loaned me that money. For my son's car. A loan? With what money? She's drowning in debt. Margaret, that's enough. Matthew took a step toward me. You're making a scene. A scene? Your wife is trying to steal my house. She forged my signature. She hired a lawyer to declare me incompetent. And you are helping her. I'm trying to keep my family together. At the cost of your mother? At the cost of whatever it takes. There it was. The truth. Raw. Painful. Definitive. My son had chosen. And he hadn't chosen me. Sabrina stood up, her hands shaking. You all know she's lying. She's sick, Margaret. You're seeing conspiracies where there are none. That's why you need help. Then explain the property transfer documents with my forged signature. Explain the email with the real estate agency. Explain the nursing home brochures with my name on them. Enough, Sabrina screamed. Her composure finally shattered. You're ruining everything. Everything we built. What you built. On my back. We gave you a roof over your head when you were alone. We gave you a family. You took my home, my dignity, and my life. Sabrina looked at me with pure, undisguised hatred. You know what, Margaret? Get out. Go wherever you want. But without the necklace. Without any money. Without anything. Because all of this, she gestured around the room, all of this is ours now. No, said a new voice from the door. None of this is yours. We all turned. Gregory had entered, accompanied by 2 police officers. I am Gregory Soto, attorney for Mrs. Margaret. I have a search warrant and an order to bring you in for questioning. He handed some papers to Matthew. My son read them, his face growing paler. What is this? A criminal complaint for forgery of documents, attempted dispossession, and fraud against Sabrina Hayes. Sabrina backed away. You can't. I also have a search warrant for Mrs. Hayes' office. We need to seize certain documents as evidence. The officers moved toward the stairs. Sabrina tried to block their path. You can't go in there. That's my private office. We have a court order, ma'am. Please step aside. For the next 20 minutes, the officers brought down boxes of documents. The green folder, the red folder, the bank statements, the printed emails, the nursing home brochures, everything. The guests watched in shock. Diane was crying silently. Sabrina's sisters had moved away as if her shame were contagious. Sabrina Hayes, one of the officers said, You need to come with us to make a statement. Are you arresting me? At the moment, we just need your statement. But depending on what we find in these documents, formal charges could be filed. Matthew. Sabrina turned to her husband, her eyes full of real tears for the first time. Matthew, don't let them take me. My son was staring at the floor. He said nothing. Matthew, go with them, Sabrina. Fix this. Fix it. Your mother is destroying me. Defend me. But Matthew just shook his head, his gaze empty. Sabrina looked at me then. There was no sweetness, no manipulation, just pure hatred. This isn't over. I won't let you win. You've already won plenty for 12 years. The officers took her away. I heard her heels clicking on the floor, then the front door closing. The guests began to leave, one by one, murmuring awkward apologies, avoiding my gaze. Brenda walked past me without a word. Karen stopped for a moment. Margaret, No, I don't want to hear it. She left, too. When everyone was gone, only Matthew, Gregory, and I remained. I also brought this. Gregory pulled out another document. A civil suit for unpaid domestic labor. 12 years of cooking, cleaning, and childcare. We've calculated a fair wage, totaling $150,000. Matthew looked up, incredulous. You're suing me? I'm claiming what you owe me. You're my mother, and you're my son. The son who let his wife treat me like dirt for 12 years. I didn't know. You knew. Maybe not the details, but you knew something was wrong, and you chose not to see. Matthew sank into the armchair, his head in his hands. What do you want me to do? I want you to get out of my house. He snapped his head up. What? This is my house. Arthur left it to me. I never signed any transfer. You are living here out of my goodwill, and that goodwill has run out. Mom, you can't just kick us out. Where will I go with Sophia? You should have thought of that before. Please, give me a chance. I can fix this. I can. You can what, Matthew? Give me back the last 12 years? Erase all the times you stayed silent while your wife humiliated me? He didn't answer, because there was no answer. You have 2 weeks to find another place and move out. After that, I'm changing the locks. Mom, 2 weeks. I walked out of my own living room. I went up to my storage room for the last time, grabbed my few belongings, and came down with my small suitcase. Where are you going? Matthew asked. To Helen's house, until you're gone. Then I'm coming back. To my home. Gregory walked me to the door. I turned back one last time. Matthew was still sitting there, surrounded by the white and gold balloons of a celebration that never was, in the middle of a living room that no longer belonged to him. Goodbye, Matthew. He didn't answer. I walked out with my head held high, my suitcase in one hand, and my dignity finally intact, because I had learned something crucial in those days. Sometimes, getting your life back means losing the people you thought were your family. And it hurts. It hurts like nothing else in the world. But it's the price of freedom. The following days were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, statements, and discoveries I hadn't even anticipated. Gregory called me on Tuesday morning. His voice was tense but excited. Mrs. Margaret, I need you to come to my office. Now. We found something important. I arrived in half an hour. His desk was covered in scattered documents, colored markers, sticky notes everywhere. When the officers searched Sabrina's office, they found more than we expected. He opened a blue folder I hadn't seen before. Much more. What did they find? Sabrina didn't just forge transfer documents for your house. She also had a second, completely fake set of deeds. With them, she already sold the house. I felt the floor lurch. What? 3 weeks ago, using the fake deeds, she sold your house to a shell corporation for $2,800,000. Way below market value. The company is owned by a Troy Miller. Does that name ring a bell? I shook my head. He's Sabrina's cousin. They planned for you to sign a power of attorney, supposedly for maintenance paperwork. With that power, they were going to legalize the sale retroactively. You wouldn't have even known until it was too late. And the money? Sabrina received an advance of $800,000. She used it to pay off the most urgent credit cards and the most aggressive collectors. The rest was supposed to come after it was all finalized. I sat down, dizzy. But that means, if we hadn't acted when we did, you would have lost your house, for real. They would have had you declared incompetent, signed the papers for you, and by the time you realized it, there would be no going back. The horror of how close I had come to the edge left me speechless. There's more. Gregory pulled out other papers. I looked into Matthew. My son? His finances. I wanted to know if he was an active or passive accomplice. He paused. Mrs. Margaret, your son knew nothing about Sabrina's debts. She kept it all a secret. But 2 months ago, he signed a document. What document? A personal loan for $30,000 in his name. But Sabrina was the one who arranged it. She made him believe it was for home improvements. That money never went to any improvements. It went straight to paying interest on her cards. Matthew, my son had been tricked too, so he didn't know. Not the full extent. He knew something was wrong, yes. The arguments with Sabrina, the strange calls, the stress. But she kept him in the dark. She manipulated him just as much as she manipulated you, just in a different way. I didn't know whether to feel relief or more pain. My son wasn't the villain I had imagined. He was just another puppet in Sabrina's show. What happens now? Sabrina is facing serious charges: forgery of official documents, aggravated fraud, attempted theft. We're talking a sentence of 5 to 10 years, and that's if she has a good lawyer. And Troy Miller, the cousin? He's facing charges as an accomplice. The shell company is being investigated. All the money will be frozen and returned. 10 years. Sophia would be 22 when her mother got out. And my granddaughter? Gregory looked at me with understanding. That's a question only you can answer, Mrs. Margaret. 2 days later, on Thursday, Sabrina was formally arrested. Bail was set at $50,000. Her parents paid it, selling Diane's car and borrowing from the whole family. Sabrina got out of jail looking gaunt, with no makeup, her clothes wrinkled. There was nothing left of the perfectly put-together woman I knew. On Friday, Matthew showed up at Helen's house. He had Sophia by the hand. My granddaughter ran to me. Grandma. I hugged her, feeling her little arms around my neck, her smell of apple shampoo. Hi, my love. Why haven't you come home? I miss you. I miss you too. Matthew waited until Helen took Sophia to the kitchen for cookies. Mom, I need to talk to you. Go ahead. He sat across from me, his hands clasped between his knees. He looked 10 years older. Gregory showed me everything. The documents, the debts, the thing with her cousin. Everything. And I didn't know, Mom. I swear. Sabrina hid it all from me. But you knew something was wrong. He nodded, his eyes wet. I knew there was tension. I knew we were spending more than we had. But every time I asked, she said it was all under control, that they were investments for the future, for Sophia. He wiped his eyes. I was an idiot. You were my son, who didn't defend me when I needed it most. I know, and I'll live with that for the rest of my life. He looked at me directly. But I need you to know something. I'm divorcing Sabrina. I hadn't expected that. Why? Because what she did is unforgivable. She tried to destroy you. She used Sophia and me as an excuse for her lies. And she almost succeeded. His voice broke. I almost lost my mother, because I was defending her, because I was too much of a coward to see the truth. And Sophia? It's going to be hard for her, but she can't grow up thinking what her mother did is okay. She can't learn that manipulation and deceit are normal. He was right. But the pain in his eyes broke my heart. Where will you live? I rented a small apartment, 2 bedrooms, near Sophia's school. He paused. Mom, I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but what? Can Sophia and I visit you? Not to live with you, just to not lose you completely. I looked through the window to the kitchen, where Sophia was laughing with Helen over cookies. Yes, I said finally, you can visit. Thank you, Mom. But are there conditions? Whatever they are, you're going to pay the civil suit, the $150,000. Not all at once. I can wait, but you will pay me. Okay. And you will never, ever again stay silent when someone disrespects me. Not your wife, not your boss, not anyone. Never again. I promise. He got up to leave, but stopped at the door. Mom, one more thing. The house. It's yours, obviously. But what are you going to do with it? It's so big for just one person, I smiled. I had been thinking about that for days. I have a plan. The following Monday, Sabrina showed up at Helen's house. She rang the doorbell at 6 in the evening. Helen looked at me, asking with her eyes if I wanted to see her. I nodded. Sabrina walked into the dining room like a ghost of herself. She wasn't wearing designer clothes, just jeans and a simple blouse, no makeup. Her hair was cut short. Margaret, Sabrina. She sat down without being invited. She put her hands on the table, and I saw they were shaking. I came to ask you to drop the charges. No, please. If I go to prison, Sophia loses her mother. You should have thought of that before you tried to steal my house. I was desperate. The debts, the collectors, they were calling me 10 times a day, threatening me. One came to my job, humiliated me in front of everyone. I just needed to get out of it, at the cost of destroying me. I never wanted to destroy you. Her eyes filled with tears. I just wanted the money. I was going to let you live in the home. I was going to visit you. I wasn't going to completely abandon you. I looked at her, this woman who had tortured me with small cruelties for 12 years, who had taken my bedroom, my dignity, my peace. Do you know the difference between you and me, Sabrina? What? When I had problems after Arthur died, when I felt alone and lost, I didn't try to destroy anyone to save myself. You did. I made mistakes. They weren't mistakes. They were choices. Choice after choice to hurt me, to use me, to erase me. She covered her face with her hands. Her shoulders shook. What do you want me to do? Grovel? Beg you? I don't want anything from you, Sabrina. You can't give me anything I need anymore. Then why? Why go through with the lawsuit? For revenge? No. I stood up. For justice. There's a difference. And Sophia? She's not to blame. Exactly. She's not to blame. That's why she is going to learn, starting now, that actions have consequences. That you can't lie and steal and manipulate without paying the price. She's just a girl who deserves a mother who teaches her real values, not how to destroy people to get what she wants. Sabrina stood up. She wasn't crying anymore. She just looked at me with a mixture of rage and defeat. You're going to destroy my family. Your family was already destroyed. I just turned on the light so everyone could see it. She left without another word. I heard her footsteps fade, the door close. Helen came into the dining room. Are you okay? Yes. For the first time in a long time, I'm okay. 2 weeks later, exactly as promised, Matthew and Sophia moved out. I helped them pack. Sophia cried as she packed her toys. Why can't we stay, Grandma? Because sometimes things need to change, sweetie. But that doesn't mean we won't see each other. Promise? I promise. The day I finally returned to my house, the sun was streaming through every window. I walked through it slowly, room by room. Sabrina's office was empty. The closets in the master bedroom were empty. Everything was clean, tidy, and silent. It was my house again. I went up to the master bedroom, the one that had been mine and Arthur's, the one they had taken from me 8 years ago. I sat on the floor, in the spot where our bed used to be. I closed my eyes. I did it, Arthur, I whispered. I got our house back. I got my life back. And for the first time since his death, I felt like I had truly begun to heal. 3 months later, on a Tuesday in February, I sat in family court, courtroom 12. The room smelled of old paper and burnt coffee. Sabrina sat on the other side, next to her public defender. There was no money left for expensive lawyers. The judge read the sentence in a monotone voice. In the case of aggravated fraud, forgery of official documents, and attempted dispossession, the defendant, Sabrina Hayes, is sentenced to 6 years in prison, reducible with good behavior. The sentence is suspended, pending probation, under the following conditions. Sabrina wasn't going to prison immediately. She would have probation, but with strict conditions. Community service, mandatory therapy, weekly check-ins with her probation officer, and an absolute restraining order against me and my property. If she violated any of it, she would go directly to prison. I looked at her. She didn't look back. She looked small, defeated, nothing like the imposing woman who had screamed at me in front of 30 people. Troy Miller, her cousin, wasn't so lucky. He went to prison. 4 years for conspiracy to commit fraud. The Shell Corporation was dissolved, and the $800,000 Sabrina had received was seized and returned. But by then, that money had already evaporated in interest payments. I left the courthouse with Gregory by my side. "How do you feel?" he asked. "I don't know. I thought I'd feel victorious. I just feel tired. That's normal. Justice doesn't always feel the way we think it will." He was right. For months, I had imagined this moment. I thought I would feel triumph, satisfaction, sweet revenge. But I just felt relief and sadness for all that had been lost along the way. Matthew had kept his promise. He divorced Sabrina 2 weeks after moving out. The divorce was fast, uncontested. Sabrina had nothing to fight for. She had no house, no money, nothing but debt and an uncertain future. Custody of Sophia stayed with Matthew. Sabrina got supervised visits every 2 weeks. My son also started paying me $500 a month. It wasn't much, but it was what he could afford after paying his rent, Sophia's expenses, and part of the debts Sabrina had left in his name. "I'm going to pay you back everything, Mom," he had told me, "even if it takes me 20 years. "I know, son." The visits started slowly. One afternoon every 2 weeks, Matthew and Sophia would come for dinner. At first it was awkward, full of heavy silences and shallow conversation. But slowly, week by week, the wounds began to heal. Sophia asked me one afternoon while we were eating chili in the kitchen, "Grandma, why did Mom do those bad things?" Matthew tensed. I took my granddaughter's hand. "Sometimes, sweetie, people make bad decisions when they're scared. Your mom was very scared, and she made decisions that hurt other people. But you're not scared?" "Of course I get scared. We all get scared sometimes. But that doesn't give us permission to hurt the people we love." "Do you still love Mom?" The question caught me off guard. I looked at Matthew, who was staring at his plate. I don't know if I still love her, but I don't wish her harm. I hope she learns from her mistakes and becomes a better person." "Me too," Sophia said, with the seriousness of a child. "Because even if she did bad things, she's still my mom." "Yes, sweetie, she's still your mom. And you have the right to love her. That will never be wrong." I hugged her and felt her tears on my blouse. But the story didn't end there. Because I had a plan for my house. A plan that had been growing ever since the day I got my keys back. One afternoon in March, I gathered my quilting group in the living room. The 6 ladies who had supported me, who had been my witnesses, my friends, my tribe. "I have a proposal for you," I said. I pulled out some documents I had prepared with Gregory. "This house is too big for me alone. 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a yard, a garage. It's a waste for just me to live here." "Are you going to sell it?" Grace asked. "No, I'm going to share it. But this time, on my terms," I explained my plan. I wanted to turn 3 of the bedrooms into workshops. A space for quilting classes, one for painting, one for pottery. The large living room would be the common area. The garden, a space for meetings. I want to create a community center for women our age. A place where we can learn, create, and share, without having to pay expensive rent or depend on city spaces that never have available hours. "And how will you maintain it?" asked Evelyn, ever practical. "By charging accessible fees. $30 a month per person. Classes in quilting, painting, pottery, yoga, whatever the teachers want to teach. Each teacher keeps 70%. I use 30% to maintain the house." "That's not much money," observed Beatrice. "It's not about the money. It's about creating something. A space where women like us can feel valued, useful, and alive." Helen smiled. "So when do we start?" "Next week. If you'll all agree to be the first teachers." They agreed. All of them. I used the money from the opal necklace for the necessary renovations. $90,000 that my mother had saved for decades, waiting for the right moment. This was that moment. I hired a carpenter to build workbenches. I bought sewing machines, quilting hoops, fabrics, colorful threads. I painted the walls bright, cheerful colors: sunflower yellow in the quilting workshop, sky blue in the painting studio, mint green in the pottery room. The master bedroom was still mine. The other two I left as guest rooms, in case Sophia ever wanted to stay over, or if one of my friends needed a temporary refuge. The Margaret Art Center opened on a Saturday in April. 30 women came on the first day. Some curious, some excited, all looking for the same thing: a place to be themselves. Mrs. Gomez, 74, learned to sew her first stitches. Carmela, a recent widow of 62, found a way to process her grief through painting. Anna, divorced at 68, discovered she had a talent for pottery. And I found a purpose I didn't know I needed. It wasn't just about teaching. It was about creating a community, a space where women the world considered past their prime, invisible, worthless, could shine. Matthew came to visit one Sunday. He walked through the workshops with Sophia, watching the women working, laughing, sharing stories. "Mom, this is incredible, isn't it? You turned all that pain into something beautiful." I shrugged. "Your father always said the best flowers grow from the best fertilizer, and fertilizer isn't exactly pleasant." Sophia was trying the pottery wheel, her hands covered in clay, laughing as it squished between her fingers. "Can I come more often, Grandma, to learn?" "Of course, sweetie. This is your house too." And I meant it. It was her house. But this time, under different rules. Rules of respect, of clear boundaries, of love without manipulation. One evening in May, 6 months after everything, I was watering the rose bushes in the garden. The same fuchsia flowers Arthur used to care for, the ones that were blooming when he died. I heard the doorbell ring. It was Sabrina. She looked different, thinner, no makeup, her hair shorter. She wore simple clothes, clean, but modest. "Margaret, Sabrina, I know I'm not supposed to be here, that I have a restraining order, but I needed to tell you something. You have 5 minutes. I'm in therapy. It's mandatory from the sentence, but it's helping. I'm understanding a lot of things, about myself, about why I did what I did." I said nothing. I just waited. I grew up poor, Margaret, very poor. My dad left us when I was 8. I watched my mom work 3 jobs to keep us afloat. I saw how people looked at us with pity. I swore I would never live like that. That doesn't justify anything. I know. But it explains the terror I felt of going back to that place. When the debts started, when the collectors called, that terror came back. And instead of asking for help, instead of being honest, I decided someone else had to pay the price. Me. Yes. You. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry I treated you the way I did. I'm sorry I took away your dignity. I'm sorry I tried to steal your house." Her voice broke. "I'm sorry for all of it." I looked at her. This woman who had nearly destroyed me. This woman who was now broken in front of me. "Are you expecting me to forgive you?" "No, I don't expect that. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. That I'm trying to be better. For Sophia. For myself. How is your relationship with Sophia?" "Difficult. She asks me questions. Why I did what I did. Why Dad and I got divorced. I try to be honest, but it's hard having your 12-year-old daughter look at you with disappointment. It's called consequences." "I know." She wiped her eyes. "Well, I've said what I came to say. I'll go before you call the police." She turned to leave. "Sabrina." She stopped. "I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe never. But I hope you really do change. For Sophia. She deserves a better mother. I know, and I'm going to, or at least I'm going to try." She left. I watched her walk down the street. A solitary figure in the afternoon Sunday. Helen appeared by my side. She had arrived for the quilting class. Was that Sabrina? Yes. What did she want? To apologize? And nothing. An apology doesn't erase years of pain. But at least she recognizes what she did. Is it enough? No. But it's a start. We walked into the house together. The quilting workshop was already full of women. Their laughter filled the space that had once been so silent and sad. That night, after everyone had gone, I sat in my bedroom, the master bedroom, the one I had reclaimed. I took out an old photo of Arthur and me, 30 years younger, smiling in front of this very house the day we bought it. I never imagined I'd have to fight so hard to keep it, I told his picture. But it was worth it. I put the photo away and opened my notebook. Ever since this all began, I had been writing. First as therapy, then as a record. I wrote the last entry. Today, 6 months after getting my life back, I understand something fundamental. Dignity isn't something other people can give you or take from you. It's something you decide to keep, even when the whole world tells you that you're worthless. For 12 years, I let them convince me I was a burden, that I should be grateful for the scraps they gave me, that my age made me invisible, disposable. But I was 68 years old when I decided that was enough. And if I could do it at 68, anyone can do it at any age. It's not easy. It hurts to lose the people you thought were your family. It hurts to discover that the people who said they loved you were willing to destroy you for money. But on the other side of that pain is something beautiful. Freedom. Today, I have a house full of laughter. I have friends who are more family than blood. I have a purpose that makes me wake up every morning excited to live. And I have something I didn't have 6 months ago. Respect for myself. Because I learned that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. I learned that saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you free. I learned that it is never, ever too late to take your life back. I am 68 years old, and my life is just beginning. I closed the notebook. I turned off the light. And I slept deeply, without the noise of the washing machine waking me, without the smell of detergent in my sheets, without the weight of humiliation crushing my chest. I slept in my own bed, in my own bedroom, in my own house. I slept like a free woman. 3 years later, epilogue. The Margaret Arts Center had grown. It wasn't just 3 workshops anymore. We now had yoga, traditional cooking, and creative writing classes, even a book club. 120 women came through my house every week. Women from 50 to 85 years old, all looking for the same thing, a place to be themselves. Some came recently divorced, trying to rebuild their identities. Others came as widows, looking to fill the void. Others just came because they were tired of being invisible. And they all found the same thing here that I had found. Community, purpose, dignity. Sophia was 15 years old now, a beautiful, intelligent teenager with her grandmother's strong will. She came every weekend. She helped with the classes. She learned from the older women. "Grandma," she said one Saturday while we were organizing threads, "when I grow up, I want to do something like this. Create spaces where people feel valued. You're going to do amazing things, sweetie. Do you think Mom could come someday? Just to see, not to stay." Sabrina had completed her probation without any issues. She was working as a manager at a coffee shop. She lived in a small apartment. She was still in therapy. Her relationship with Sophia was slowly improving. "Maybe someday," I answered. "When the time is right." Matthew had finished paying me back 6 months ago. $150,000 that took him 3 years to pay. But he did it. "We're even, Mom," he had said when he gave me the last check. "No," I had replied. "We'll never be even, because this wasn't about money. It was about respect. And that, my son, you pay back every day with your actions." And he was. Matthew had changed. He was more present, more attentive, more aware. Not perfect, but better. That night, after everyone had gone, I sat in the garden. The rose bushes were more beautiful than ever, covering the entire fence with their fuchsia flowers. Helen sat next to me, with 2 cups of tea. "What are you thinking about?" "About everything that happened. About how something so terrible turned into something so beautiful, because you turned it into something beautiful, Margaret. It didn't just happen. You decided to do something with the pain." I suppose I did. We drank our tea in silence, listening to the crickets, feeling the cool night breeze. "You know," I said finally, For years I thought the worst day of my life was when Sabrina screamed at me in front of everyone. But now, I think it was the best. Why? Because that scream woke me up. It made me see that I had stopped living my own life, and it gave me the courage to take it back. Helen raised her cup. To the screams that wake us up, I clinked my cup against hers, and to the courage to get up after. Final reflection. If you're listening to this story and you identify with it, if there is someone in your life who makes you feel small, invisible, worthless, listen to me closely. You matter. Your dignity is not up for negotiation. Your age does not make you less valuable. Your situation does not define your future. Setting boundaries is not cruelty. It's self-love. Defending your space is not selfish. It's a necessity, and it is never, ever too late to start over. I did it at 68 years old. You can do it at any age. Because true wealth isn't in the houses you own or the money you have. True wealth is the peace you sleep with every night, knowing that no one can take away what really matters. Your dignity, your worth, your right to live without humiliation. And that, nobody can take from you, unless you let them. I stopped letting them. Will you? If this story touched something inside you, if it made you feel like you're not alone, leave me a comment telling me where you're watching from. Write your country, your city. I would love to know that these words reached you wherever you are. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who is going through something similar, share this story. Maybe it's the push they need to wake up, just like I woke up. Give this a like if you believe it's never too late to get your life back. And subscribe to keep sharing stories of women who stood up when the world told them to stay down. Because these stories need to be told, and you need to know that you are not alone. You are never alone. The wine glass shimmered under the chandelier light when Harper raised it. Her smile was perfect, rehearsed. "A toast," she announced, and the whole table went silent. "To mothers-in-law." She made a dramatic pause. Some mothers-in-law are useful. They contribute. They understand when to stay and when to leave. She looked directly at me, unblinking. Others just take up too much space. Mason's laughter exploded first. "My son, the boy I carried in my womb, who I raised alone, for whom I sacrificed everything." He was laughing with his hands on the table, eyes closed, as if it were the funniest thing he had ever heard in his life. The other guests laughed too, nervous, uncomfortable, but they laughed. I just smiled. I raised my glass slowly, very slowly. The silence began to grow. "How interesting," I said with a calm they didn't know I possessed. "Because it turns out I just bought my own mansion." Harper stopped smiling. 2,000 miles from here." Mason stopped laughing. "So don't worry. I'm never going to occupy your space again." I drank my wine while their faces froze. "In fact, you are never going to see me occupying any space again. I'm moving in 10 days. I set the glass on the table with a sharp thud. "Enjoy dessert." I walked out of that house with my back straight. Without looking back, without tears, I drove through the empty streets, feeling something strange in my chest. It wasn't rage, it wasn't sadness. It was something bigger. It was freedom mixed with silent revenge. It was knowing that every word I had said was absolutely true. The mansion existed. It had 5 bedrooms, a massive backyard, and an ocean view. And they had no idea that I had built an empire while they treated me like a servant. But this story doesn't start at that dinner. It starts much earlier, 30 years earlier, when I still believed that unconditional love existed and that families took care of each other. I was 8 years old when I understood that in my house there were 2 types of daughters, the ones who mattered and the ones who just filled space. Margaret was the first. I was the second. Mom never said it with words. She didn't have to. She said it with looks, with hugs that avoided me, with smiles that faded when I entered the room. Margaret was pretty, sociable, nice. I was quiet, serious, invisible. "Eleanor, get me some water. Eleanor, pick this up. Eleanor, don't be a bother. Your sister is studying." The orders came like breaths. Automatic, constant. I remember the day Margaret won a drawing contest at school. Mom organized a party, balloons all over the living room, a 3-tier cake, the whole family invited. Margaret wore a coral dress that Mom had sewn for her over weeks. I wore my usual school clothes because no one told me there was a celebration. "Eleanor, go to the kitchen and help your aunt with the dishes," Mom ordered me while everyone sang around Margaret. I was 8 years old and had gotten a perfect score on my math test that same week. Nobody knew, nobody asked. I washed dishes for 2 hours while I listened to laughter in the living room. Dad died when I was 15. Massive heart attack, no warnings, no goodbyes. Mom fell apart so completely that she forgot I was suffering too. She cried, hugging Margaret. I made coffee, answered calls, organized the funeral. "You are so strong, Eleanor," people said. As if strong were a compliment. As if I weren't allowed to fall apart too. Margaret cried on Mom's shoulder. I cried in the bathroom with the door locked and the water running so no one would hear me. 2 years later, Margaret married Richard. A man with money, a good name, a future. The wedding was in a huge ballroom. Imported dress, 500 guests. Mom sold some of Grandma's jewelry to pay for part of the party. "Margaret deserves the best," she said. I worked part-time at a fabric store to help with the household bills. No one asked if I deserved anything too. I met Jack when I was 23. He worked in construction. Big, calloused, honest hands. He didn't have money, but he looked at me as if I were gold. I fell in love with that look. We got married in a small ceremony. 15 people, a simple dress I sewed myself. Mom didn't come. She said she had a headache. Margaret didn't either. She had a trip planned. I got married without my family and pretended I didn't care. Jack was good, hardworking. He treated me with affection. We moved into a small apartment, but it was ours. For the first time in my life, I had a space where no one gave me orders, where I decided. I got pregnant 6 months after getting married. Mason was born in February, under a full moon that illuminated the entire hospital room. I held him in my arms and swore that he would have all my love, that he would never feel invisible. Jack cried beside me, kissing my forehead, promising to be the best father in the world. Mason was barely 2 years old when Jack died. Accident at the construction site. A beam wasn't secured properly. It all happened in seconds. I was left a widow at 26, with a small child and debts I didn't know existed. Mom offered to let me move back home. "But only until you get back on your feet," she said, as if grief had an expiration date. "Margaret lent me $5,000, so you can stabilize yourself." She charged me back with interest 6 months later. I didn't go back to Mom's house. I couldn't. I got 2 jobs, one at a diner in the mornings, another cleaning offices at night. Mason went to a cheap daycare, where the caregivers didn't even know his full name. I slept 4 hours a day, but I paid the bills. Alone. The years passed in a blur of exhaustion and fierce love. Mason grew up healthy, smart, beautiful. I gave him everything I could claw from the world with my fingernails. New clothes every season, good shoes that wouldn't hurt his feet. Private school with a scholarship I got by begging the principal on my knees. He was my pride. My reason to open my eyes every morning at 5 a.m. When he turned 10, he hugged me and said, "You are the best mom in the world." I kept those words like a treasure. I would need them later, when he forgot them. Mom died when Mason was 12. Fast cancer. No mercy. At the funeral, Margaret cried as if she had lost a saint. I held her hand and felt nothing. Emptiness. Mom never asked for my forgiveness. She never acknowledged that she had ignored me my whole life. She left, taking with her any possibility of me hearing "I love you" from her lips. Margaret inherited the house. I inherited an old bracelet and a photo album where I didn't appear in any images. "Mom knew you are stronger," Margaret told me while we signed papers. "You don't need material things." I nodded. Because arguing with people like that is losing time I didn't have. Mason entered college with another scholarship. He studied business administration. I kept working double shifts to give him extra money, so he wouldn't be embarrassed, so he could go out with his friends. I came home exhausted, and he wouldn't even look up from his phone. "Hi, Mom," he would say without looking at me. I would ask him about his day. "Fine," he replied. A single word, as if I didn't deserve more, but there was something no one knew. Something I kept like a shining secret in the middle of my gray life. Since Jack died, I had started saving every penny I could. $5 here, 10 there. I hid them in a shoebox in the closet. When I gathered $1,000, I did something that terrified me. I invested. I bought shares of a small company that a customer at the diner mentioned once. I didn't know what I was doing, I just knew I couldn't keep living on the edge my whole life. Those shares multiplied. I sold them. I bought more. I learned on my own, reading books from the library, watching free videos on the internet at 3 a.m. 5 years after starting, I had $40,000. 10 years later, I had $150,000. Nobody knew. Not Mason, not Margaret, nobody. I kept living in the same small apartment, wearing the same worn-out clothes, taking the bus. But I had a plan. A plan that grew in silence, like plants in the dark. My refuge was the apartment's small balcony, 10 square feet where I grew roses, red, yellow, orange. I took care of them every afternoon after work. They were the only thing truly mine. The only thing that bloomed because of my effort, and no one could ruin. Mason never paid attention to them. "They're just flowers, Mom," he said when I tried to show him a new rose that had budded. But for me, they were more. They were proof that I could create beauty even when everything around was gray. Mason met Harper in his senior year of college. She was studying interior design. She came from a family with money, expensive clothes, brand new car, nails always perfect. The first time she came to dinner, she looked at the apartment as if she had walked into a dumpster. "How cozy," she said. But her eyes said otherwise. I prepared my best meal: roast chicken, rice, fresh salad. Harper pushed the food around the plate without tasting almost anything. "I'm on a diet," she explained with a fake smile. Mason didn't say anything. He didn't defend me. He just kept eating, as if he didn't notice the contempt in his girlfriend's eyes. They got married 2 years later. I paid for half the wedding with my secret savings. Harper wanted a luxurious ballroom. "It's just been my dream since I was a little girl," she told Mason. He asked for my help with a sad puppy face. "Mom, you've always supported me." I couldn't refuse. I spent $40,000 on a wedding where Harper didn't even thank me, where they seated me at a table in the back, far from the main family, where the DJ mispronounced my name when he introduced me. Mason danced with Harper under colored lights and never asked me to dance, not a single song. After the wedding, everything changed. Harper moved into Mason's apartment, a small place, but better than mine. I kept visiting them every week, bringing food, helping with the cleaning. Harper accepted everything with a tense smile. "Thanks, Eleanor. How touching." But she never invited me to stay. She never asked how I was. Mason started canceling plans on me. "Harper and I have a dinner. Harper wants us to spend Sunday alone." I nodded. I always nodded. The humiliation started subtle. Comments wrapped in laughter. "Eleanor, that sweater is very old." "No. Eleanor, you should dye your hair. The gray makes you look old." "Eleanor, you don't understand modern decoration. It's normal." Mason laughed. Every time, as if his wife were saying something witty and not stabbing me with words. I smiled. I swallowed the humiliation with the coffee they never offered me. One day I arrived without warning. I knocked on the door with a pie I had made. Harper opened it with a face of annoyance. "Eleanor, we're busy." Behind her was Mason on the sofa, watching TV. They weren't busy. They just didn't want me there. "I just came to bring this," I said, offering the pie. Harper took it without looking at it. "How sweet. But you know Mason is watching his weight." She closed the door before I could respond. I stood in the hallway, holding my purse, feeling like something inside me was starting to crack. That night, on my balcony, looking at my roses under the moon, I made a decision. I checked my investments. I had over $400,000. I searched for properties on the internet. I found a house for sale 2,000 miles away, facing the ocean. 5 bedrooms, huge yard. It was a distressed sale, going for $750,000. I did calculations all night. I could get a mortgage with a large down payment. I could sell some shares. I could do it. And most importantly, I could leave. I could disappear from their lives and build something just mine. The next 6 months were a silent dance between two worlds. By day, I was still the invisible Eleanor, the mother-in-law who brought Tupperware of food, who cleaned without being asked, who smiled when Harper made her poisoned comments. But at night, In the privacy of my apartment, I was another person. A woman who checked interest rates, who negotiated with banks, who signed papers to buy a mansion she hadn't even seen in person. Only in photos, only in virtual tours. But it was enough. It was my escape. My silent revenge. I got the loan by fudging small details. I said I worked at a single company with a better salary. I presented my investments as constant income. The bank approved the credit. I signed the papers with trembling hands. The house was mine. $750,000 for a piece of paradise where no one could humiliate me ever again. I hired someone to inspect the property. Everything was in order. Solid roof, new pipes, wild but recoverable garden. Perfect. I didn't tell Mason anything. I didn't tell anyone. I kept visiting them every week as if nothing were changing. Harper increased the poison in every encounter. Eleanor, those pants are too tight on you. You should watch your figure. Eleanor, don't use that perfume anymore. It smells like an old lady. Eleanor, why do you always arrive without warning? Polite people call first. Mason nodded. Sometimes, not even that. He just kept looking at his phone while his wife tore me apart with words. One afternoon, Harper organized a gathering with her friends at her apartment. She asked me to go help with the food. You just cook so well, Eleanor, and besides, it distracts you. I know you live very alone. I accepted. I arrived 2 hours early, prepared appetizers, served drinks, cleaned the kitchen. When the friends arrived, Harper introduced me as Mason's mom, who was kind enough to help us today. Not as a guest, as an employee. I stayed in the kitchen while they laughed in the living room. I heard everything. You're so lucky, Harper, that your mother-in-law is so helpful. Yeah, although she takes up a lot of space, doesn't she? She's always here. Laughter. Mason arrived from work in the middle of that conversation. I heard him laugh too. My son, laughing at me with strangers. I walked out of that apartment without saying goodbye. I walked to the bus with my fists clenched, nails digging into my palms. I didn't cry. I had no tears left for people like that. I got home and opened my laptop. I searched for moving companies. I hired one for 3 weeks from then. I started packing in silence. Clothes, books, my balcony plants. Every box was a step toward freedom. Margaret called me a week later. Eleanor, I need you to lend me $10,000. Richard has problems with a business deal. My sister, the one who always had everything, asking me for money. I don't have that amount. I lied. Please, Eleanor, we're family. I've always helped you. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream at her that the only time she helped me she charged me interest. But I just said, I'm sorry, Margaret. I can't. She hung up without saying goodbye. 3 days later, she sent me a text. Mom would be ashamed of how selfish you've become. I blocked her number. There were 2 weeks left until my move when Harper announced she would host a special dinner. To celebrate Mason's promotion at work, she invited me out of obligation. I accepted because I knew it would be the last time. I bought an expensive bottle of wine. $200 that I spent with pleasure, knowing what was coming. I arrived on time. Harper opened the door in a tight silver dress. Eleanor, what a surprise that you dressed up. I was wearing a simple wine-colored dress, the best I had. For her, it was still not enough. The dinner was tense from the start. They had invited 3 couple friends. Everyone talked about trips, new cars, expensive restaurants. I ate in silence. No one spoke to me. I was a ghost in my own chair. Until the moment of the toast arrived, Harper stood up with her glass. She looked at everyone. She smiled, and she said those words I had been waiting for without knowing it. A toast. To mothers-in-law. Dramatic pause. Some mothers-in-law are useful. They contribute. They understand when to stay and when to leave. She looked directly at me. Others just take up too much space. Mason's laughter was the one that hurt the most. Genuine. Amused. As if his mother, being humiliated, was entertainment. The guests laughed uncomfortably. Harper savored her moment of glory, and I, for the first time in 30 years, decided not to swallow the poison. I raised my glass slowly. Everyone went quiet. How curious that you say that, Harper, I said with a calm I didn't know I had. Because I just bought a mansion. Silence. 2,000 miles from here. Mason stopped laughing. with 5 bedrooms, a massive backyard, and an ocean view. Harper went pale. So you're right. I'm not going to occupy any more space. I move in 10 days. I drank my wine. In fact, this is the last time you are going to see me. You can keep all your free space. I left the glass on the table. Enjoy your dinner. I stood up. I took my purse. I walked toward the door. Mason finally reacted. Mom, wait. What are you saying? I turned around. I looked him in the eyes. My son. The boy for whom I sacrificed everything. I'm saying that I'm not going to be the mother-in-law who takes up space anymore. I'm going to be the woman who lives in a mansion while you guys pay rent on a 2-bedroom apartment. I opened the door. Goodbye, Mason. I went out into the hallway. I heard shouting inside. Harper's hysterical voice, Mason's confused voice. But I didn't go back. I went down the stairs. I went out to the parking lot. I got into my old car, and while I drove home, with the city lights blurring in the rearview mirror, I felt something I hadn't felt in decades. Power, pure, crystal clear, intoxicating. They thought they knew me. They thought I was the submissive woman, the sacrificed mother, the invisible mother-in-law. They knew nothing. They didn't know that for years I had built an empire in silence, that I had invested every penny they thought I didn't have, that I had planned my escape while they planned my humiliation. That night I slept deeply for the first time in months. I dreamed of the sea, of roses growing in a garden without limits, of a house where no one could tell me I took up too much space, because that space was mine, paid with my money, built with my effort, and no one, absolutely no one, could take it from me. The next 10 days were a whirlwind of boxes, papers, and liberation. I packed my life in silence. Every object I put away was a piece of the past I was leaving behind. The chipped mug I used every morning, the mended sheets I had washed 1,000 times, the investment books hidden under the bed, everything went into boxes labeled with my own handwriting. The moving company would come in a week. I would fly out 2 days earlier to receive my things at the new house. At my mansion, Mason called the day after the dinner, 6 times. I didn't answer. He sent texts. Mom, we have to talk. Mom, is the house thing serious? Mom, please, don't do this. I deleted every message without replying. Harper wrote too. A single message. Eleanor, if this is a tantrum, that's enough. Mason is very upset. I blocked her number immediately. I didn't owe them explanations. I didn't owe them anything. Margaret appeared at my door 3 days later. She knocked insistently until I opened. Can I know what is going on? She entered without permission. She saw the boxes stacked in the living room. It's true that you bought a house. Her face was a mixture of disbelief and envy. Yes, I replied without giving details. With what money, Eleanor? You always said you didn't have savings. She looked at me as if she had just discovered I was a stranger. With my money, Margaret. With the money I earned working while everyone thought I was poor. She sat on my sofa without being invited. Mason called me crying. He says you're abandoning him. I felt a pang in my chest, but I ignored it. Mason is 32 years old, has a wife and a job. He doesn't need me. He's your son, and I am his mother, not his servant. Margaret stayed silent for the first time in her life. She looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize. How much did the house cost? She asked finally. $750,000. I saw her go pale. Her house, the one she inherited from Mom, was worth maybe $400,000. How? Investing, saving, doing what no one thought I could do. I stood up and opened the door. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to keep packing. Margaret stood up slowly. Mom would be disappointed in you. Those words would have destroyed me before. Now they just made me laugh. Mom was already disappointed in me since I was born, Margaret. There is no difference. My sister left without saying goodbye. I saw her walk away through the window and felt nothing. Not guilt, not sadness, just relief. That night I received a text from an unknown number. Eleanor, I'm Chloe, Harper's sister. I need to talk to you. It's important. I hesitated. I almost didn't reply. But something in that message made me answer. About what? About my sister. About what she's doing to your son. Can we meet tomorrow? I agreed out of curiosity more than real interest. We met at a coffee shop on the other side of the city. Chloe was older than Harper, with short hair and a tired look. She sat across from me without preamble. Harper is furious. She says you humiliated her in front of her friends. She drank her coffee. But I came to tell you that you did the right thing. I looked at her in surprise. My sister is a manipulator. She always has been. She destroyed my cousin's marriage. She isolated my father from the whole family. And now she's doing the same with Mason. Chloe took out her phone. She showed me messages. Conversations where Harper spoke about me with a contempt that froze my blood. The old lady is in the way. I have to get rid of her. Mason is so weak he doesn't dare set limits with his mother. I read every word, feeling something in me harden even more. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Chloe put the phone away. Because I escaped my family too. I understand what you're doing. And I want you to know that you're not crazy, that you're not a bad mother, that you are choosing to save yourself. Her words were a balm I didn't know I needed. We talked for 2 hours. She told me how she had cut ties with her family 5 years ago, how she had rebuilt her life, how she was happy now for the first time. Don't let them convince you to come back, she told me as we said goodbye. Guilt is their favorite weapon. Don't fall for it. I went back home strengthened. I finished packing that night. My balcony roses were the last thing. I took them out of their pots with care. I wrapped the roots in damp soil and cloth. They would travel with me on the plane. I wasn't going to leave them behind. They were proof that I could create life, even in the smallest place. And now I would have a whole garden for them. 2 days before my flight, Mason appeared at the door. Without warning. He looked haggard, with deep, dark circles under his eyes. Mom, please, let's talk. I didn't let him in. We talked in the hallway. What do you want, Mason? For you not to go. For us to fix this. There is nothing to fix. Harper will apologize. I promise. I let out a bitter laugh. I don't want her apology, Mason. I want you to understand something very simple. I don't exist to make your life easier. I am not a piece of furniture. I am not an employee. I am your mother, and I deserve respect. He tried to touch my arm. I pulled away. Mom, I respect you. You watched me laugh when your wife humiliated me. Mason, you laughed. Not once. Hundreds of times over 5 years. His eyes filled with tears. I didn't realize. Exactly. You didn't realize. Because you never really saw me. The silence between us was an abyss. And now what? He asked with a broken voice. Now I live my life. And you live yours. Just like that? No. Mason. Just as necessary. I went into my apartment and closed the door. I heard him cry on the other side. I rested my forehead against the wood and closed my eyes. It hurt. Of course it hurt. He was my son. I had carried him in my womb. I had raised him alone. I had loved him with every fiber of my being. But that love couldn't keep destroying me. It couldn't keep being my prison. The night before my flight, I did one last thing. I wrote a letter. Not for Mason. Not for Margaret. For myself. Dear 8-year-old Eleanor, I know right now you think your place is in the corner, that your voice doesn't matter, that your pain doesn't count. But you're wrong. You're going to grow up. You're going to suffer a lot. You're going to be invisible for decades. But one day, at 64 years old, you're going to buy a mansion with your own money. You're going to plant roses in a limitless garden. You're going to look in the mirror and recognize yourself. And you're going to be free. Hang in there. It's worth it. I folded the letter and put it in my purse. The day of the flight dawned clear. The moving truck took everything at 6 in the morning. I took a taxi to the airport at 10. One suitcase, my purse, my roses carefully wrapped. Nothing else. In the waiting room, I checked my phone for the last time. 43 messages from Mason, 12 from Margaret, 5 from unknown numbers that were surely family friends. I ignored them all. I turned off the phone. When they called my flight, I walked toward the gate without looking back. I got on the plane. I settled into my seat. I held the small pot with my roses in my lap, and when the plane took off, when I saw the city getting small under the clouds, I felt 30 years of weight lift off my shoulders. I was flying, toward my house, toward my life, toward myself. The plane landed under an orange sunset sky. I walked out of the airport breathing air that tasted different, cleaner, freer. I had hired a driver who was waiting for me with a sign with my name. Mrs. Eleanor, he said with a kind smile. A man of about 50, with calm eyes. Welcome. I got into the car, feeling that every mile we advanced was a mile further from the past. The streets were wide, the trees greener. The ocean appeared in the distance, shining like a fulfilled promise. Almost there, said the driver, and then I saw it. My house, my mansion. It was more beautiful than I remembered in the photos. White, with huge windows, a wild garden that screamed to be loved. The iron gate opened slowly. We entered along a stone path. I got out of the car with my legs trembling. Not from fear, from pure emotion. Is it everything you expected? Asked the driver. It's more, I whispered. I walked toward the entrance. The key shone in my hand. I put it in the lock. It turned perfectly. I pushed the door and entered my new world. The interior smelled of wood and possibilities. Light plank floors, high ceilings, light entering from everywhere. I walked slowly through every room. The spacious living room with a stone fireplace, the kitchen with a center island and windows facing the garden. 3 bedrooms on the ground floor, 2 more upstairs. Bathrooms with deep tubs, huge closets, everything empty, everything waiting for me. I went up to the master bedroom. It had a private balcony with an ocean view. I stood there, watching the waves breaking in the distance, and I cried. But not from sadness, from relief, from victory, from gratitude toward that Eleanor who had saved in silence for years, who had bet on herself when no one else did. That night I slept on the floor of the master bedroom, wrapped in a blanket I had brought in the suitcase. I didn't have furniture yet. It didn't matter. It was my floor, my house, my peace. I listened to the ocean all night, a constant sound that lulled decades of insomnia. The movers arrived 2 days later. The men unloaded my boxes with care. It wasn't a lot of stuff. A whole life fit in 20 boxes. Basic furniture I had bought online arrived that same afternoon. A queen-size bed, a cream-colored sofa, a dining table for 6 people. Little by little, the house began to take shape. Every object in its place was like a statement. I decided this. I chose it. I paid for it. I dedicated the first full week to the garden. It was a beautiful disaster. Grass up to my knees, shapeless bushes, wild flowers fighting for space. I hired a local gardener, a man named Earl, 70 years old, with knobby hands and wisdom in his eyes. This garden has potential, he said, walking the grounds. It just needs love. We worked together. I learned names of plants I had never heard. He taught me to prune, to sow, to listen to what the soil needed. I planted my roses in a special corner, with room to grow, with perfect light. These are going to bloom like never before, Earl promised. And he was right. A month after being there, my phone was still off. I had bought a new one, with a new number. Only 3 people had it: the bank, my lawyer, and Chloe, who had become an unexpected friend. She wrote to me every week. How's everything going? Have you adapted yet? Tell me about the ocean. I sent her photos of the garden. She sent me encouragement. It was enough. I met my neighbors little by little. To the right lived Claire, a woman my age, a widow too, with a huge dog named Thor. We became friends drinking coffee on her terrace. She told me she had arrived there after a terrible divorce. This place heals, she said. I don't know how, but it does. To the left lived a young couple, Caleb and his wife, with 2 small children. They brought me homemade cookies and asked for gardening advice. You have a gift, Caleb said, seeing my roses. I smiled. It wasn't a gift. It was dedication. It was love that finally had a place to bloom. I started going to the local market every Saturday, a place full of colors, smells, life. I bought fresh vegetables, freshly baked bread, flowers for the house. The lady who sold herbs adopted me. Honey, try this basil. It's the best on the whole coast. She gave me extra sprigs, told me town gossip, made me feel part of something. For the first time in my life, I was visible, not out of obligation, not to serve, simply for existing. One afternoon, 2 months after my arrival, I was pruning rose bushes when my new phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, but answered, "Eleanor." It was a woman's voice, older, trembling. "It's me." "Speak, Margaret." My stomach tightened. "How did you get this number?" "Chloe gave it to me." "Don't hang up, please." Silence. I took a deep breath. "What do you want, Margaret?" I need you to know something. Mason is bad, very bad." I felt a pang, but kept my voice firm. "Mason is an adult. He has a wife. He has resources. Harper left him." That did surprise me. "What?" "She left. 3 weeks ago. She said she couldn't be with such a weak man, that she was tired of his mommy issues." "Mason is devastated. Eleanor. He cries all the time. He lost his job. He's living in my house because he can't pay his rent." I closed my eyes. Part of me, that part of a mother that never dies, wanted to take the first plane back. But another part, the part that had built this new life, stood firm. "And what do you want me to do, Margaret? Come back? Talk to him?" "You're his mother. I am his mother. Not his savior, not his therapist, not his excuse. He's your only son, Eleanor. You abandoned him." That word. Abandon. As if I hadn't been there every damn day of his life. As if I hadn't sacrificed everything. "I didn't abandon him, Margaret. I left. There is a huge difference. I left because you all pushed me out. I left because my mental health was worth more than your comfort. And I am not coming back." Margaret started to cry. "I don't recognize you. What happened to you?" I found myself, I replied with a calm that surprised me. "I found myself after 64 years of being lost, and I'm not going to get lost again. You are selfish. Maybe. Or maybe I finally learned that taking care of myself isn't selfishness. It's survival. Mason asks for you every day. That hurt. But not as much as before. Tell him I'm okay, that I'm alive, that if he wants to talk to me, he can call, but that I am not going back to being who I was. And what if he needs to see you? I live 2,000 miles away, Margaret. He knows where I am. If he really needs me, he can get on a plane. He can make the effort. For the first time in his life, he can make the effort." I hung up. I sat in the garden, with the pruning shears in my hand, watching the ocean. The waves kept breaking, constant, eternal, indifferent to human drama. Earl appeared with a wheelbarrow full of soil. "Everything okay, Eleanor?" "Yes," I replied. And it was true. I was okay. Better than okay. That night, Claire came over with a bottle of wine. We sat on my terrace, under the stars. "Do you want to talk about what happened today?" she asked. I told her everything, from Margaret's call to the pain that still lived in my chest. She listened, without interrupting. When I finished, she poured more wine and said, "Children think mothers are infinite. Our love has no bottom." And they're right. Love has no bottom. But our tolerance does. Our mental health does. Our body does. You did good. He will learn. Or not. But you already did your part. Her words were a balm. I slept that night hugging that truth. I had already done my part. I had raised a son. I had given him everything. But it was no longer my job to save him from the consequences of his own decisions. It was no longer my job to sacrifice myself on the altar of his comfort. My job now was to live, to bloom, to be. The following days were lighter. The garden exploded in colors. My roses grew strong, bigger than ever. Earl was right. They just needed space. Like me, I started taking painting classes at a workshop in town. I discovered I had a knack for landscapes. My teacher, a woman named Julia, said I painted with soul. "You can tell you've lived a lot," she said. She didn't know how much. One day, walking on the beach, I found a perfect shell. Pale pink, no fractures. I held it up against the sun. The light went through it, creating beautiful patterns. I kept it in my pocket. That night I put it on my nightstand. A reminder. The most beautiful things are sometimes hidden under the sand. You just have to be willing to look for them. I had searched for 64 years, and I had finally found myself. 3 months after my arrival, my life had a rhythm I had never known. I woke up without an alarm when my body decided it was enough. I drank coffee on the terrace watching the sunrise over the ocean. I worked in the garden until noon. I ate a light lunch. In the afternoons I painted or read. The neighbors stopped by to say hello. "Claire, Caleb, Earl. I had built a small community without trying, simply by being myself, without having to serve, without having to disappear, just existing. One morning in April, my phone rang. Unknown number again. This time I didn't hesitate as much. "Hello, Mom," Mason's voice. Hoarse, tired, broken. I sat on the front step. My heart beat fast, but I didn't lose my calm. "Mason." Long silence. Heavy breathing on the other end. "How are you?" he asked finally. "Good." "You?" "Bad. Very bad." I waited. I wasn't going to make this easy for him. "Harper left me." "I guess you already know," Margaret told me. "I lost my job. I'm living with your sister. I sleep on her sofa." His voice cracked. "I have nothing, Mom. I lost everything." Part of me wanted to console him, to tell him everything would be fine, that I would fly back to hug him. But that part was old. It was the Eleanor who had died the day she took that plane. "I'm sorry, Mason," I said sincerely. "That must be very difficult." "Is that all you're going to say?" His voice raised in pitch. "You're not coming back? You're not going to help me? Help you how?" "I don't know. With money. With support. You're my mother." There it was. The expectation. The right he thought he had over me. "Mason, have you ever wondered how I got here?" "What?" "This house. This place. How do you think I paid for it?" Confused silence. "I don't know. I thought maybe you had inherited something. Or won the lottery." I let out a humorless laugh. "I worked 2 jobs for 20 years. I saved every penny I could. I invested in secret. I learned about finances alone, reading library books at 3 a.m. While you slept, I was building my escape. While Harper humiliated me and you laughed, I was saving money. This house cost $750,000. Mason, I earned every dollar." The silence was thick. I didn't know. "Of course you didn't know. You never asked. You never really saw me. I was just your mother. The one who cooked. The one who cleaned. The one who was always available for whatever you needed." "Mom, I haven't finished. For 5 years I watched your wife humiliate me, make comments about my clothes, my weight, my age, my existence. And you laughed. Mason, every time. You never defended me. Not a single time. I didn't realize it was that serious." "Exactly. You didn't realize, because I didn't matter enough for you to pay attention." I heard sobs on the other end. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom. I was an idiot. I was a bad son. But I need you. Please. I don't have anyone else." I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. "Mason, I love you. You are my son and you always will be. But I am not going to be your savior again. I am not coming back so you can feel better. I am not going to sacrifice the peace I found." "Then you don't really love me." That phrase, that attempt at manipulation, would have worked before. Now it just gave me clarity. "I love you enough to let you fall, so you learn to get up alone. Because if I come back now, nothing will change. You will keep being dependent, and I will keep being invisible. What am I supposed to do?" His voice was that of a lost child. But he wasn't a child. He was a man of 32. "Get professional help. Go to therapy. Look for a job. Rebuild your life. Like I did." "I don't know if I can." I didn't know if I could either. But here I am, in a house I bought with my effort, living a life I built from scratch. You can do the same. But you have to want it. And you have to do it alone. And if I need you, I am a phone call away to talk. But I am not coming back physically. I am not going back to being who I was. That woman doesn't exist anymore. Mason." He hung up without saying goodbye. I sat on the step, with the phone in my hand, feeling a strange mixture of pain and liberation. It hurt. Of course it hurt, but it was a clean pain. Not the dirty and constant pain of being ignored. It was the pain of setting limits, of choosing myself, of knowing I was doing the right thing even when it felt terrible. Claire appeared an hour later with chocolate cake. "I saw your face from my window. Thought you might need this." We sat in the kitchen. I told her everything. She nodded while she ate. Children have to learn that mothers aren't infinite resources, that we are human, that we can break. "You did the right thing." "Then why do I feel so bad?" "Because you're a good person. Good people feel guilt even when they shouldn't. But guilt doesn't mean you're wrong. That afternoon I painted. A large canvas, violent colors, reds, oranges, yellows, an explosion of emotions coming out of my hands in oil paint. I didn't know what I was painting until I finished. It was a phoenix, reborn from its own ashes. Julia, my teacher, came to see it days later. She stayed quiet for a long time. "Eleanor, this is extraordinary. You should exhibit it. It's very personal. Art always is. That's why it connects." She convinced me to include it in a local exhibition in town. Small, in a gallery for emerging artists. I accepted more for her than for me. The night of the exhibition I arrived nervous. My painting hung on the main wall. The phoenix shone under the lights. People stopped to look at it. I heard comments. "What strength! You can feel the pain and hope together. This is real art." I sold the painting that night. A woman of 50, with sad but determined eyes, offered me $2,000 for it. "This painting is my story too," she said. "I need to have it in my house." I gave her my number. We became friends later. Her name was Sarah. She was getting out of an abusive marriage. "My painting gave her strength," she said. We drank coffee every week. We swapped stories of survival. Months kept passing. My garden became the most beautiful on the block. The roses bloomed in constant waves. Earl taught me to make floral arrangements. I started selling them at the market on Saturdays, not because I needed the money. Because I liked it. Because it made me feel useful on my own terms, not on others' terms. The herb lady saved me the best spot. "Here, honey, your flowers deserve to be seen." One July afternoon, 6 months after my arrival, I was watering the rose bushes when I saw an unfamiliar car stop in front of my gate. A rental car. A man got out, tall, thin, with messy hair. My heart stopped. It was Mason. He had come. I left the hose running and walked toward the gate. I didn't open it. We looked at each other through the iron. He looked different, thinner, deep, dark circles, but something in his eyes had changed. It wasn't the look of the spoiled child. It was the look of someone who had hit rock bottom. "Mom." His voice was barely a whisper. "Mason." Silence. The water from the hose kept running in the garden. The roses shone behind me. "Can I come in?" I hesitated. Every fiber of my maternal being screamed yes. But the woman who had built this life knew she had to be careful. "Why did you come?" "Because you were right. About everything." I went to therapy. 3 months, twice a week. I got a new job. It's not a big deal, but it's honest. I stopped looking for others to save me. His eyes filled with tears. And I realized something. "I never saw you, Mom. Never. You were there the whole time, and I was blind. Harper was cruel, and I laughed because it was easier than confronting her. I used you as a shield, as a servant, as a resource, never as a mother, never as a person." The tears ran down his face uncontrolled. "I came to apologize. Really. Without expecting anything. Without asking you to come back. I just came to tell you I'm sorry. That I finally understand. That I'm proud of you. Of this," he pointed to the house. "Of what you built. Of you having the courage to leave when I didn't have the courage to treat you right." I opened the gate slowly. He entered with hesitant steps. We stood on the stone path, without hugging yet, just looking at each other, really looking at each other. "Do you want to see the house?" I asked. He nodded. I walked him through every room. I showed him my painting studio, the garden, the roses. He listened attentively. He asked questions. He really listened to the answers. We ended up on the terrace, watching the ocean. We sat on the terrace without speaking for long minutes. Just the sound of the waves filled the space between us. Mason looked at the horizon as if searching for words he had never learned to say. I waited. I was no longer in a hurry. I no longer had the need to fill awkward silences so others would feel better. Finally, he spoke. "This place is incredible. Mom, it's like you found paradise." "I didn't find it," I corrected gently. "I built it. There is a difference." He nodded slowly, processing. "How did you do it? I mean, not just buying the house, but this piece, it shows on your face, in how you move. You seem like another person." I took my time to answer. I poured 2 glasses of lemonade I had made that morning. I passed him one. I broke first. Completely. That night after dinner, when Harper made that toast and you laughed, something inside me fractured. But not in the way it had happened before. This time the fracture was different. It was liberating, like when an old tree splits and leaves room for something new to grow. I drank from my glass. I stopped expecting you guys to change. I stopped expecting recognition. I stopped expecting love from the wrong place. And when I stopped expecting, I could start building. Mason looked at me with an intensity I had never seen in him. Therapy helped me understand something, he said with a trembling voice. Harper didn't turn me into someone cruel. I already was. She just gave me permission to show it. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. I saw how she treated you, and I said nothing because a part of me believed she was right, that you were less, that your function was to serve. As if everything you had done for me for 30 years didn't count, as if it were your obligation and not your sacrifice. His words were a knife but also a balm. The recognition I had waited for years finally arrived, but I didn't need it to survive anymore. It was a gift, not a necessity. And now? I asked. Now what do you think? That I was blind, that I had the strongest woman in the world as a mother, and I treated her like a piece of furniture, that when you needed me most, I wasn't there. He covered his face with his hands, and that I deserve for you to hate me. I don't hate you, Mason. My voice was firm. I loved you so much I almost lost myself in that love. But I don't hate you. How can you not hate me? Because hate requires energy. I don't want to spend anymore. Because I love you still. Only now that love has limits. It has conditions. And the main one is that I come first. The silence returned, but this time it was different, cleaner. He looked at his hands as if seeing them for the first time. My therapist says I came here looking for absolution, that I need you to forgive me to feel better. He looked up. But I didn't come to ask for that. I came to tell you that I understand if you never forgive me, that I understand if you don't want me to be part of your new life, that I respect your decision. Whatever it is, those words were worth more than 1,000 empty apologies. How long are you staying? I asked. I booked a hotel for 3 days. If you want me to leave sooner, just say it. You can stay. There is a guest room. His face showed surprise. Really? With conditions, I added quickly. You respect my spaces. You respect my schedule. You take nothing for granted. You don't expect me to cook for you or wait on you. If you stay, you are a guest. You don't go back to being the son I was forced to serve. Understood. Understood. His voice was firm. Thanks, Mom. I installed him in the back room. The smallest one, but with good light. I gave him clean towels. I showed him where everything was. The kitchen is open. Make yourself whatever you need. I eat breakfast at 7. I work in the garden until noon. Afternoons are for painting or reading. If you want to join me in something, ask first. He mentally noted every word. I can help with the garden tomorrow. If you want? I'd like to. I nodded. Then I'll see you at 7. That night I ate dinner alone on the terrace as always. Mason ate in the kitchen. He respected the space. When I finished, he had already washed his dishes and was in his room. I knocked on the door. Yes. Good night, Mason. A pause. Good night, Mom. And thanks for giving me this opportunity. I didn't answer. I just closed my door and lay down listening to the ocean. I felt something strange. It wasn't the complete happiness from before he arrived, but it wasn't the old pain either. It was something in between. Caution, watchful hope, the possibility of something new built on honest ruins. The next morning, Mason appeared in the garden at 7 sharp. He was wearing old clothes, appropriate for getting dirty. What do you need me to do? I pointed to a section of weeds. That needs clearing. Earl comes at 10. He'll tell you better. We worked in silence. It was strange to see him sweat, get his hands dirty, do physical work without complaining. When Earl arrived, I introduced them. This is my son, Mason. He's visiting for a few days. Earl measured him with his gaze. You know about plants? Nothing, admitted Mason. But I want to learn. Earl smiled. Well, humility is the first step. Come, I'll teach you. I watched them work together for hours. Earl was patient but demanding. Mason listened to every instruction, asked questions, didn't pretend to know. At noon, when I stopped for lunch, they kept going. I made salad and sandwiches. I called them. We ate, the three of us, at the garden table. Earl told stories of his 50 years as a gardener. Mason listened, fascinated. "And you always lived here?" he asked. "Born 2 miles from here. Never left. Why?" "Everything I need is in this town." He looked at his plate. "Peace isn't in places, son. It's in how you build your life." After lunch, Mason helped wash dishes without being asked. Then he went back to the garden. I went to paint. From my studio, I could see them working. There was something healing in watching my son learn from a wise man, in seeing him do honest work without expecting applause. That afternoon, they painted a mental canvas I would never forget. At night, Mason cooked, simple pasta with tomato sauce. "It's not much," he said shyly, "but I wanted to do something." We ate together on the terrace. The conversation flowed more naturally. He told me about his new job, manager at a building supply store. "It's not glamorous, but the boss is decent, pays on time, treats me with respect. That is more than many have," I said. "I know. I finally understand." He spoke to me about therapy, about how the first sessions were just to complain about Harper. But my therapist kept asking me the same question. "And what did you do?" At first it annoyed me. I was the victim, right? My wife had left me. But session after session, I started to see the pattern. I was the villain too, in my own story and in yours. He took a deep breath. He showed me something. He asked me to make a list of everything you had done for me. Everything. Since I was born until the day you left. He took out his phone. "Do you want to see it?" "I don't need to see it, Mason. I lived it." It has 237 things, specific ones, from changing diapers to paying for my college, from nights without sleep when I was sick to meals you prepared with the last money you had. His eyes shone, and then he asked me to make a list of what I had done for you. Long pause. I didn't even reach 20 things, and most were basic. Calling you on your birthday, visiting you occasionally, things any decent son does without thinking. The exercise destroyed me, he continued. Seeing in black and white how unbalanced our relationship was, how much you had given, how little I had received. I don't mean material things. I mean respect, consideration, active love, not just words. He wiped his tears. My therapist asked me, "If your mother were your friend and not your mother, would she still be your friend after you treated her like that?" The answer was no, never, because no one tolerates from a friend what I made you tolerate as a son. His words fell like stones in calm water. They created ripples that expanded. "That's why I came, Mom. Not to ask you to come back, not to ask for money, not to look for you to save me again. I came to look you in the eyes and tell you, you were right, about everything, and I came to ask if there is any way, any form in this universe, for you to let me try to be the son you deserve to have from the beginning." The ocean roared softly in the distance. The stars began to appear. My heart was a drum beating complicated truths. "I don't know if it's possible, Mason," I said honestly. "There is a lot of damage, a lot of lost time, a lot of broken trust. I know, but," I continued, "I am willing to try. Slowly, with clear limits, without guarantees." I looked straight at him. "If you fail me again, there won't be a third chance. I will leave your life forever. Do you understand?" "I understand." His voice was firm. "And I accept." Mason's 3-day visit turned into a week. Every morning, I found him in the garden before me, working in silence, learning from Earl. Every night he cooked something simple, and we ate on the terrace, sharing silences that were no longer awkward. There was something different about him, a stillness that didn't exist before, as if he had finally stopped running from himself. The 4th day, Claire came to drink coffee. Mason was in the garden. She observed him from the kitchen window. "That's your son." It wasn't a question. "Yes, he looks like you, in the eyes." She poured sugar in her cup. "How do you feel about him being here?" It was a question I had asked myself 100 times. Scared, hopeful, cautious, all at the same time. Claire nodded. "That means you're being smart. Love doesn't have to be blind to be real." I told her about the conversations we had had, about Mason's therapy, about his apologies. "Do you believe him?" Claire asked directly. "I want to believe him. But believing isn't enough. I need to see it with time. Words are easy. Real changes are slow and painful. Wise answer. She drank her coffee. Just remember, Eleanor, you don't have to forgive quickly. You don't have to make everything go back to how it was before. In fact, it shouldn't go back to how it was before. What was before was broken. That afternoon, I took Mason to see the town. We walked through the market. I introduced him to the herb lady. "This is your boy?" she asked with bright eyes, handsome like the mother. Mason blushed. "We bought ingredients for dinner. He insisted on paying." "Please, Mom, let me." I accepted. In the gallery where I had exhibited my painting, Julia was organizing a new exhibition. "Eleanor, what a joy to see you. And this young man, my son, Mason." Julia measured him with an artist's look. "He has your same expression when he's thinking. Genes don't lie." I showed him the painting of the phoenix in a photo on my phone. I sold it the first night. Mason looked at the image with fascination. "You painted it." "Yes, it is. Powerful. You can feel the emotion." Julia smiled. "Your mother has a gift. She paints with her soul." Mason looked at me with something I had never seen in his eyes. Respect. Genuine admiration. "I didn't know you painted." "There are many things about me you don't know, Mason, because you never asked." I didn't say it with cruelty, just with truth. He nodded slowly. "You're right. I want to know you. Really. If you let me." That night, after dinner, we sat in the living room. Mason held a cup of tea between his hands. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "When did you decide to leave? I mean, what was the exact moment?" I thought about that question. There was no exact moment. It was years of small moments. Every time Harper made a comment and you laughed. Every time I called you and you told me you were busy. Every time I arrived with food and you didn't even say thank you. They piled up like drops of water in a glass. And the night of the toast was the drop that spilled everything. Did you ever think about telling me how you felt before leaving? All the time, Mason. But you guys didn't listen. When I tried to say I felt bad, Harper changed the subject. When I said I needed you to defend me, you told me I was being too sensitive. When I asked for a little consideration, you treated me like I was being dramatic. Eventually, I stopped trying. Because screaming into the void is exhausting. He set the cup on the table with trembling hands. "God, Mom, I was so blind." "You weren't blind, Mason. You chose not to see. There is a difference. My words were harsh but necessary. Seeing requires courage. It requires being willing to admit you are wrong, and you weren't ready for that. And now? Now you are here, asking the right questions, listening to the answers even if they hurt. That is growth." He got up and walked toward the window. Outside, the garden shone under the moonlight. "Harper called me 2 weeks ago. My heart sped up, but I kept my voice calm." "What did she want?" "To come back. She said she had made a mistake, that she missed me, that we could start over." He turned toward me. I told her no. "Why?" "Because my therapist made me see something. Harper didn't love me. She loved the idea of me. The Mason she could mold. The Mason who cut ties with his mother because she asked him to. The Mason who had no personality of his own." He took a deep breath. "But that Mason was miserable. And making my mother miserable to please my wife wasn't love. It was cowardice." I sat back down. "How did she react?" "She was furious. She told me I was a failure, that without her I was nobody, that I was going to end up alone and pathetic." He smiled sadly. "And you know what I realized in that moment? That she had always talked like that, only before she disguised it better, or I was too dumb to see it." "You weren't dumb. You were in love. Love makes us blind to many things." "Did you love my dad like that?" he asked with genuine curiosity. It was a question he had never asked me. "I loved your dad differently. He saw me. He respected me. We worked as a team. When he died, I lost my partner, not my jailer." I paused. "Harper wasn't your partner, Mason. She was your boss. And you let her be because it was easier than being your own person." He nodded slowly. "You're right. Like in everything else." On the 6th day, Margaret arrived. Without warning. Her car stopped in front of the gate with a screech of brakes. She got out like a whirlwind. She rang the doorbell insistently. I was in the garden with Mason and Earl. The three of us looked at each other. "It's my sister," I said. Mason went pale. "Do you want me to handle it?" "No. This is something I have to do myself." I walked toward the gate. Margaret was shouting on the other side. "Eleanor, open this door right now." I opened it. She entered like a storm. "Can I know what is going on?" "Mason has been here a week and hasn't answered my calls." She looked at me with fury. "What did you do to him?" "Good morning, Margaret." My voice was calm. "I didn't do anything to him." "Is he visiting?" "Visiting? He must be coming back. He lives with me. His things are at my house. His things can stay there, or he can pick them up. That is his decision, not mine." Mason appeared behind me. "Aunt Margaret." His voice was firm. "I came on my own. No one forced me." "Mason, honey, your mother is manipulating you, don't you see?" "No," he interrupted her. "Mom isn't manipulating me. For the first time in my life, I am seeing clearly." Margaret looked at both of us as if we were strangers. "I can't believe what I'm hearing." "Eleanor, you were always the reasonable one, the one who kept the family together." "Together." I let out a humorless laugh. "Margaret, I didn't keep the family together. I kept myself small so you guys could feel big. There is a difference." "That's not true." "No? Tell me. How many times did you ask me how I was when Dad died? How many times did you thank me for taking care of Mom while you lived your perfect life? How many times did you see me as something more than a solution to your problems?" The silence was crushing. Margaret opened her mouth, closed it. Nothing came out. "Exactly," I continued. "Because for you, I was useful. I wasn't your sister. I was your resource. And when I stopped being useful, I stopped existing for you. Mom loved you." Margaret tried weakly. "Mom tolerated me. And you allowed it because it suited you. While I was the invisible one, you could be the star." Margaret dropped into a garden chair. She looked small suddenly. "Old? Tired? Is that what you think of me? That I'm selfish?" "I think you are human. That you did what we all do. We take the easiest path. And the easiest path was to ignore my pain, because acknowledging it meant accepting your complicity." Mason approached. "Auntie, I was complicit too. Of many things. But I am trying to change. Maybe you could too." Margaret looked at both of us. Silent tears ran down her face. "I don't know how." Her voice was a broken whisper. "I don't know how to fix this." I sat beside her. I didn't touch her. But I was present. "Start by listening. By accepting. By not justifying. I don't need you to tell me I'm right about everything. I just need you to acknowledge that you hurt me. That Mom hurt me. And that you saw it and did nothing." She sobbed. A deep sound coming from somewhere ancient. "I'm sorry. God, Eleanor. I'm so sorry." They weren't empty words. They were words soaked in truth. "I believe you," I said softly. "But I'm sorry doesn't erase 30 years. It doesn't erase the damage. It's just the beginning." "The beginning of what?" "Of building something new. If you want, if you are willing to do the work." She looked up. "You would be willing?" "Under my terms, with clear limits. Without going back to how we were before. Because how we were before was killing me." Margaret nodded slowly. "Can I stay? A few days? To try to understand." I looked at Mason. He nodded. "There is room," I said finally. "But the same rules I gave Mason apply to you. Respect, consideration, nothing taken for granted." "I accept." Her voice was small but sincere. I installed her in another room. I gave her towels. I showed her the kitchen. That night, the three of us ate dinner in silence. A silence loaded with decades of unsaid things that had finally come to light. After dinner, Margaret helped with the dishes. Mason swept the terrace. I sat outside watching the stars. Claire appeared with a bottle of wine. Saw the car. More family. "My sister. Need reinforcements?" I smiled. "The worst has passed." We sat together. "You are rebuilding your family," Claire observed. "No," I corrected. "I am deciding who enters my new life. And under what conditions. It's not the same." "You're right. It's better." We clinked glasses while the moon illuminated my garden of roses that finally had all the room in the world to grow. The following week was a painful excavation process. 3 people in a house, each carrying decades of unhealed wounds. But there was something different this time. No one ran away. No one pretended. Conversations were difficult but real. Margaret and Mason started to see patterns they had never noticed. How each had contributed to my invisibility. How they had taken my sacrifice as something natural instead of extraordinary. One morning, Margaret found me in the garden before sunrise. "Can I sit?" I nodded. We stayed in silence, watching the sky change from black to purple to orange. "I dreamed of Mom last night," she said finally. "She scolded me for being here. She told me it was a betrayal to be on your side." She plucked a blade of grass. "And I realized something. Mom taught us to compete. You and me. She made me believe that for me to shine, you had to be dull. And I believed it. My whole life I believed it." "It wasn't just Mom," I replied. "It was society. It was the times. It was a whole system that told us there was only room for one valuable daughter. And we believed it." Margaret wiped her eyes. "But we were sisters. We should have protected each other. And I didn't protect you. I sacrificed you." "Yes, you did. There was no reason to lie. Can you forgive me someday?" Her voice trembled. "I don't know, Margaret. Honestly, I don't know. But I can try to build something new with you. Not based on the past, based on who we decide to be now." She nodded, accepting that truth. "How did you do this?" She pointed to the house, the garden, everything. "How did you find the strength?" "I didn't find it. I built it. Penny by penny. Decision by decision. Every time I chose not to spend on something unnecessary. Every time I invested when I was scared. Every time I said no when I wanted to say yes just to please." I looked at her. "Strength isn't something you have. It's something you practice until it becomes part of you." Mason appeared with coffee for the three of us. He sat with us on the dew-covered grass. "I called my therapist yesterday," he said. "I told him I'm here. That you are here too, Auntie." He looked at Margaret. "He told me something important. That family healing doesn't mean going back to being like before. It means creating something completely new, with honest foundations this time." He drank his coffee, "And that maybe we'll never be a normal family, but we can be a real family." Margaret sobbed softly. "I don't know if I deserve to be in that new family." "It's not about deserving," I said. "It's about choosing, about doing the work, about staying present even when it's uncomfortable." I looked directly at her. "Are you willing to do that?" She nodded with determination. "Yes, I am. I don't know how, but I want to try." "Then let's start with something simple," I suggested. "Everyone shares a truth they have never said, without judgments, just listening." Mason went first. Me first. He took a deep breath. "I was always jealous of how Mom managed alone, of her strength, because I felt weak. And instead of admiring her, I resented her. I allowed Harper to treat her badly because secretly I wanted Mom to be less perfect, so I wouldn't feel so inadequate." His words hung in the air like a sacred confession. "Thank you for your honesty," I said simply. Margaret continued. "I knew Mom treated you differently. I saw it my whole life, and I liked it. It made me feel special, chosen. And when she died and left me the house, it wasn't a surprise. It was confirmation of something I had always known, that I was worth more, at least in her eyes." Tears ran freely, and the shame of admitting that is almost unbearable. But it's the truth. "Thank you," I said again. My turn had arrived. "My truth is this," I started. "For years I told myself I stayed out of love, that I endured for you guys. But part of me stayed out of fear. Fear of being nothing without my role of sacrificed mother. Without my role of useful sister. Fear of discovering that without serving others, I had no identity. I looked at the ocean, and the irony is that I had to lose you to find myself. I had to let go of everything to discover who Eleanor was without all of you." We sat in silence, processing. The sun had already risen completely. Earl arrived for his shift. "Good morning, family." He looked at the three of us on the grass. "We're doing group therapy." We laughed. It was the first real laugh between us in decades. "Something like that," I replied. "Well, plants don't do therapy. They just grow. Maybe we should learn from them." His simple wisdom was exactly what we needed. That afternoon, the three of us worked in the garden under Earl's supervision. Margaret had never dirtied her hands like that. This is harder than it looks, she panted while digging. Most valuable things are, replied Earl. That's why people prefer to buy flowers than grow them. But the ones you grow yourself mean more. Because you know the effort behind every petal. He looked toward my roses. Eleanor brought them from very far away. She took care of them every day. And now look, they are the most beautiful in the neighborhood. Mason was planting bulbs following Earl's instructions. How long do they take to bloom? Months. Maybe a year. A year. Real beauty requires patience, son. Instant things rarely last. Another blow of wisdom we needed to hear. We worked until the sun started to go down. We were dirty, sweaty, exhausted. But there was something satisfying in that. In doing physical work together. In building something with our hands. At night, Sarah came to dinner. My friend, who had bought the Phoenix painting. She wanted to meet my family. The dinner was surprisingly light. Sarah told stories of her own healing process, of how she had escaped a marriage that almost killed her. The day I left, I had only a suitcase and my dignity, she said. I thought I had lost everything, but actually I had just won myself back. Margaret and Mason listened absorbed. And your children? Asked Mason. They hated me at first. They thought I was selfish, that I was abandoning the family. Sarah drank wine, but eventually they understood. When they saw me bloom, when they realized that the woman they knew before was just a shadow. Now we have a real relationship, based on mutual respect, not obligation. After Sarah left, Margaret helped me with the dishes. She is incredible. Yes, she is. Do you think we can get there? To that place of peace? I looked at her. Depends on how much you are willing to change, on how much you are willing to let go. You can't bring the old ego to the new life, Margaret. It doesn't fit. She nodded thoughtfully. I have so much to unlearn. We all do. That's why it's a process. On the 9th day, Mason received a call from his work. I have to go back. There was panic in his eyes. But I don't want this to end. I don't want to go back and have everything return to how it was. It doesn't have to be like that, I assured him. You can leave and keep growing. You can keep what you learned here. Can I come back? His voice was that of a scared child. Whenever you want. But with the same rules. Respect, consideration, honesty. I accept them. Always. I hugged him. A real hug. Not the obligatory hug from before. One that meant something. Margaret decided to stay 2 more days. I need more time here. Away from my life. To think. I understood her. When Mason left, the house felt quieter. Margaret and I had deeper conversations. About Mom. About Dad. About how favoritism had damaged both of us in different ways. I was in a prison too, admitted Margaret. I had to be perfect always. I couldn't fail. I couldn't be human. Because if I stopped being the favorite, what did I have left? Your humanity, I replied, which is more valuable than any favoritism. The day Margaret left, we hugged at the gate. Thank you for not giving up on me, she whispered. Thank you for coming, I replied. I will be back. In a month. If you allow me. Sounds good to me. I watched her walk away feeling something strange. It wasn't the complete reconciliation of the movies. It was something more real, more fragile, more honest. It was the beginning of something that could work or could break, but at least it was authentic. That night, alone again in my house, I walked through the garden under the stars. The roses shone silver under the moon. Earl had said they were the most beautiful in the neighborhood. But I knew the truth. They weren't beautiful because they were perfect. They were beautiful because they had survived. They had been ripped from their original home. They had traveled 2,000 miles. They had been replanted in unknown soil, and even so they bloomed. Like me. I sat on my terrace with a glass of wine. The ocean whispered ancient secrets. I thought about the Eleanor of a year ago. The invisible woman serving plates at a dinner where she was humiliated. That woman had died. Not violently, but softly, like a necessary transformation. And from her ashes, this version was born. The woman who owned a mansion, who painted, who had friends, who set limits, who said no, who chose herself without guilt. My phone vibrated. Text from Mason. Arrived safe, Mom. Thanks for this week. For your patience. For giving me the chance to meet the real Eleanor. I love you, I replied. Love you too. Take care. Simple, honest, no drama. Another message. Margaret, home now. I feel different, lighter, and also heavier, as if I'm carrying the weight of the truth, but I let go of the weight of the lie. Does that make sense? I smiled. Perfect sense. I turned off the phone. I looked at the stars. I remembered Harper's words that fateful night. Some mothers-in-law are useful. Others just take up space. In my mind, I rewrote the phrase. Some women occupy space apologizing. Others build empires and plant roses. I drank my wine, savoring every sip, savoring my freedom, my peace, my life built with my own hands. The wind brought the smell of salt and flowers. Tomorrow, Earl would come early. We had plans to expand the garden. More roses, maybe jasmine, maybe lavender. The space was infinite. Like my future, like my capacity to bloom. It had taken me 64 years to learn it. But finally I knew. I didn't take up too much space. The world had simply been too small. So I built my own world. One where I fit completely. One where I could breathe. One where finally, gloriously, I was free.